What up, though? One Pride. This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Antony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey, which can only mean one thing. It is time for your weekly dose of college knowledge. Yes, it is the college football podcast, Boys in the Hood. Ryan, I hope you've had a great Christmas, first off and first all, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there, everyone who follows us and is in the chat today. Hope you're having a lovely holiday period. We didn't get the biggest of Christmas presents last week in the college football playoffs, Ryan. A disappointing start to the new 12-team format, but we've got some cracking quarterfinals lined up potentially, so maybe Santa's just a little late with his presents for us this year.
No, it was a shame. There was no destined potential upset, no outlier that would cause them ripples through the effect. A lot of them, I suppose, went according to plan, if you ask most people. Like I say, we've still got some big quarterfinals lined up, like I say, with two teams that could cause large upsets. But no, they were interesting games, some more competitive than others. But yeah, it was good to see that there's definitely some teams that have kind of like say trundled along through the season that are probably going to get hot right now, and they looked like they put in some of the best performances of the season. So some of them will definitely fancy their chances to make a run all the way from the quarterfinals right the way through.
Absolutely. Boise State, the lone underdogs left in this thing now. Let's see how they do with their introduction. So today we are going to go back over the quarterfinal performances and we like to keep the positives going up around here. So we're not just going to rag on a load of blowouts. We've looked down into this game. There are some players on the losing teams who've done very well, of course. We're going to highlight the people who deserve highlighting, etc. But yeah, we're going to talk about the first round. We're going to take a look ahead to the quarterfinals as well. We're going to be talking transfer portal, all that shtick. Lots of big moves been made. Little 2025 draft as well, if we get the opportunity to, depending on time and everything. So we've got a lot on the docket this evening. Let's just get the housekeeping out the way first very quickly. So Roar Lions UK Discord, if you want in on that, let us know. We'll fire the link across for that. The main podcast is going to be coming up later this evening. We are going to be doing our San Francisco 49ers preview as the Lions look to get the number one seed and keep it with a little bit of help from the Cheeseheads up north. Don't forget to like and sub to all our stuff, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. All those follows do really help us and the channel. Don't forget we're part of Lions Nation Unite as well. That's Herman Moore's project to bring together a whole host of Lions content creators into one forum for you, the fans, to talk everything Detroit Lions. Don't forget we're a Twitch affiliate. We're monetized on YouTube, got a tip jar, all that good stuff. So you want to help us that way, great. If not, we just love having you all in the building first and foremost. We've got the feedback form on there as well. So any comments you have about the shows, just let us know. We will take that all on board. Right. Let's see if anyone's in at the moment. I've seen Brent DeWitt is in the building. He goes, howdy, Hank and everybody. Please hit the like button to help the channel. Appreciate you, Brent. Hope you've had a great Christmas period. Hope you're doing well. Your Michigan Wolverines got themselves a shiny new quarterback in the portal from the group of five. We'll see how he does. We'll talk about him in a bit, but nevertheless, they still went and got one, so good for them. Little Christmas present there. I will dive into Twitch as well in a moment to see if anyone's in there. So if you're in Twitch as well, just give me a minute and I will get in and we will chat about all those bits and bobs. But we'll go into some news first. We've got a little bit of college news. Obviously, there's a lot at the minute, but head coaches and all that we will break down a little later on because there's so much going on. But, we started a theme last week, Ryan. We're talking about former players, alumni, NFL guys coming into coaching for the first time in the collegiate levels. Obviously, last week we had a big announcement there, but we've had another one this week. We've got another former NFL player coming into the coaching ranks, and another one who is going into the HBCU coaching ranks, specifically in the MEAC, and that is Deshaun Jackson. He is going to be, and this was confirmed as of a few hours ago for definite sure, he's going to be the new head coach of the Delaware State Hornets. Now, that is not the Delaware team coming up to the FBS next year. That's the Fighting Blue Hens, greatest name in the world. This is Delaware State. They play in the MEAC. I think again they'll be playing against Gerald's Morgan State Bears next year. I believe they are a MEAC team as well. But right, it seems to be becoming a thing now. A lot more of these players, especially ones who don't have experience really either. I think he's got a little bit from what I remember, but not too much. And now taking the plunge in, and we remain to be seen how we do. But Deshaun Jackson, obviously very much loved in NFL circles, the deep threat, the guy is going to take his shot at coaching now with Delaware State.
Yeah, it's becoming a pretty rapid trend now of players, ex-players that want to they don't want to start in like high school. They want to like maybe jump the queue a little bit in sense of fast tracking their head coaching or their coaching careers, starting in the FCS or the HBCU scene. And a lot of these teams are very receptive to bringing in young, black, inexperienced head coaches that have got a lot of NFL experience. They've got ties, they've got connections, they've played the game, they understand it at that level. They clearly see a lot of pull in sense of recruitment, what it can do for them players that want to play for guys that have played in the league as recently as Deshaun has. Like I say, he was only suiting up, what, 3, 4 years ago, coming to the end, like I say. So someone that's got very recent, like I say, he's not one of the older guys like Reed or someone like that. But this guy, yeah, I've always liked him. Seems like a good person. It feels like a team, like I say, that also it's a long-term project. So it's something, like I say, that you can really get your teeth stuck into. One that, like I say, can hopefully help these young players progress through, can try keep some of them, any of them thought about leaving, try keep some in the building, and then, like I say, work his charms, maybe pull a few strings, make a few calls, and try get some guys to drop down to his level or stay locally around the area to come over. So it's going to be another one to see how it does. Press guesses for him. What are his future plans? If it goes well, how long does he stay? How short term or long term is he thinking? So yeah, I can see in the next year or two, lots and lots. There'll just be a short list of guys that have recently hung them up that probably that want to get into this.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got a completely free shot here because, Delaware State, the last 2 seasons, they've been coached by Lee Hull. You want to know what their record is in that time? They were 2-21 and they were 0-10 in MEAC play. So they've not actually won a game in the MEAC now since 2022. So it'll be going on 3 years before he starts. So with that kind of record as well, you basically really just got a free shot at this ride, but hopefully if you get it right, like I say, it'll springboard you onto something much bigger.
Yep. We saw Teddy Bridgewater. Before he decided to join the Lions, there were reports that he got offers from FCS and HBCU schools. Like I say, he's just won a Northwestern Miami, like I say, high school title. Like I say, he average beat his opponent by about 54 points, like the average margin of win. Absolutely just decimated his entire way through. And he could very likely have been someone in consideration for this job had he decided not to go back to playing. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of teams of this caliber were reaching out to him. And I reckon he's probably got 1 year with the Lions. I think this is the playoff run. I like to say, give it a couple of months, and I fully expect an FCS team, HBCU team, to be employing Teddy Bridgewater. Like I say, he's got this national title under his belt, like I say, in the area. So that's something to work off of. Like I say, experienced, he could work really well with a quarterback. He just seems like a natural fit. Like I say, that give it a couple of months and he will already be interviewing for these kind of jobs. And we're just going to see a lot of this now going forward. I said, I'm all for it in the right situation. Teams that, yeah, things haven't gone well in the last few years, they can take that gamble. Established programs with big winning records and have got something to defend. They're probably not going to go down the total inexperienced playoff route. Bit of a bold character, they might stay away from them, but these teams have very little to lose, and the coach that takes the job can really make a name for himself if they can find quick success.
And as we've seen, we've talked to Gerald all these times over the years. The HBCUs, they rally around the guys who stay there and want to do well for them because, they've had a lot of guys who've just sort of come and gone, not really done a great deal there. So for these guys to bring their profile to some of these teams, it could be absolutely invaluable. So the MEAC is going to be very interesting next year because you've got some real good head coach. Michael Vick is now in there, and now you've got Deshaun Jackson in there as well. So you've got a lot of profile. Maybe there'll be a lot of high-profile fixtures coming in there next year again. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to Gerald about that. But yeah, Deshaun Jackson is coming to the head coaching ranks in college ball. So keep an eye out for what the Delaware State Hornets do next year under him. Sticking in the FCS, there is, Ryan, one more game to play this year. And maybe on paper and probably on the field as well, this has not been the most exhilarating set of FCS playoffs ever. But you did predict what the final was going to be with a last minute adjustment, I'll give you. But, this was an all Dakota clash in there, and you switched your choice. You got it right. You picked the guys who were going to be there. But it's 1 versus 2, Ryan. There's one game left.
Yep. I mean, in recent years, the FCS playoffs they just don't throw up many upsets. They just kind of usually progress, and they see the course of ending up with the majority of the high ranked teams. And maybe that's because of overexpansion. Maybe that's because the gap between the top and the bottom of the SCFs is so vast. I've seen lots of people say that, like say, the FBS could turn out this way where you just get a lot of lopsided scores. That remains to be seen. But yeah, best two teams got there. Like I say, this weekend we just had a clash of two of the best two FCS quarterbacks in the country, Mark Gronowski, Cam Miller. Like I say, the rivalry. And I love the quote, like I said, Cam Miller saying, like I said, I've always lost. And he's basically said, I can now finally say it. I hate them. Yeah, and I'm so glad I beaten them. And it just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I just found it really funny. But yeah, no, Mark Gronowski, he goes out on top as a back-to-back national champion and Jackrabbits quarterback. He bows out now. I think he will get a lot of interest in the CFL, in the UFL, as a quarterback 3 on a practice squad. You couldn't get many more guys that are more experienced and got more genuine top-level play under their belt with the stats to match up. But yeah, very interesting game. Like you say, we've got a team like say, Montana State likes to throw it. Got Tom Millott, like you say, you got NDSU, like I say, loves to run it. Like you got Cam Miller, the running quarterback, and then you've got like a triple quadruple rushing monster, them defenses. So this is the one everyone wanted, and this is the one everyone's going to see. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how it pans out.
So your prediction at the start of this all was for Montana State to get to the championship game. You had them initially facing South Dakota, but then you did change it to North Dakota State. But you did have at the very beginning the Dakota winning. So, you're coming into this last one now. Are you still going to stick with the Dakota team, or do you think that Montana State are gonna do it as the 1 seed and get there? Who's gonna win this?
I'll take the Bison. Like I said, their defense has been good, stingy. I just like the fact that they're so well rounded on offense. They can throw it to the Trey Lance's brother. They got star wide out, and then they've got a plethora of running guys. They've got tight ends. Their offensive line as well, producing, like I say, lots of NFL talent. Some are going to be good draft picks next year. They've just got all the foundations in place, and their coaching staff is it's just a tree that's starting to get like picked off slowly because people are going so well. But yeah, so now they've got there. Like I say, for me, they've overcome the best team in the nation, potentially the Jackrabbits, and now, like I said, this will be where they pick up their dynasty again. It's been a couple of years, but now I expect them. Now they've got back there to get the job done.
There you go. We've got the Bison winning it again. Going to a local FCS guy. So the final is on the 7th of January. It's held in Frisco, Texas for some reason. Not sure why it's always there, but
Every
it
year for me.
is. In Dallas FC's stadium in Frisco. So yeah, you got that on the 7th of January. So a couple of weeks now for them to rest up and get ready for that one. But yeah, it'd be Montana State versus North Dakota State. Other news we're going to leave for another day. We do have a question before we get going with our previews there. So Brent's in there, and I will always answer questions from you, Brent. Have as many as you want. But he goes, so this is to do with Michigan, right? He goes, what do you think the Wolverines' record would have been this year if they had an average QB under center? Been a while since he's seen QB play played that bad for Michigan. Now they finished 7-5 overall. So if you think you've had a horrendously bad season and you're 7-5, that's pretty good. But would the record have been any better with an average QB under the center for them, or were there other issues that may have still kept them at 7-5 anyhow?
No, an average quarterback would have been vastly better. Davis Warren was a walking turnover machine, and Alex Orji, for the best part, could barely throw a ball at times. He was just purely rushing and sometimes bailed way too quickly. Just didn't trust him. There's 9+ wins there if they get a steady quarterback on center that, like I said, just didn't turn the ball over. Like I say, they were just some of the interceptions warranted. They were just absolute no-nos. Some of those, like I said, just there was no excuses for. Like I say, they were just forcing into windows that were never there and just panicking at times. And then RJ, like I say, good with his feet, good extending plays, good running quarterback, good on the move, but in the pocket, kind of just lacked all the awareness. Like I say, he just wasn't good as a pocket passer. So both quarterbacks had big flaws, and rotating them too often, because we saw it in multiple guys play, it just unsettled the team. It never felt that settled throughout. So if they'd had one average quarterback all season, I reckon they'd have probably gone like 9-4 with the ball win, something like that.
Yeah, I could do that. I could see a few of the games they lost where they were very narrow, and it was the picks, the interceptions generally that were costing them in it. So I think they could have been a 9-win team potentially, with better QB play, possibly 10, but not enough to be like in the running for the Big Ten, let's say. But hey who, they probably have won the Indiana game with a better quarterback. You probably chalk that one down there as one. Who knows? There've been a couple of others as well. So but they have added a new quarterback into the room. I'm very interested to take your view on this. So, Mikey Keene is the new quarterback in the Michigan room. So, for those who don't are not that familiar with Mikey Keene, he initially started his life at UCF, in the Power Five, and he was a starter for them in his freshman year. As a freshman quarterback, he threw for 1,730 yards at 64% completion with 17 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So those are good numbers for a freshman. Sorry, they were still in the Power Five at the time. They were in the American. My bad there. He didn't play his second year. He spent his last 2 years at Fresno State in the Mountain West, and I mean, dude's put up some numbers. So he's 560 of 815. That's 69% completion percentage way for 5,868 yards, 42 touchdowns to 21 interceptions. So that number a little high, 2-to-1 on the TD to interception ratio. Pure pocket passer. In the last 2 years, his rushing stats are minus 330 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. This is a guy who gets sacked a lot and doesn't eat. Yeah, he is a predominant pocket passer, and that is it. But kind of fits Michigan's MO. I mean, he's coming out the group of five, there, Ryan. But this is a highly experienced guy. He's thrown for nearly 9,000 yards in his college career now, 65 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. Vastly experienced. Does this kind of feel like and he is coming towards the end of his college career now. So do we see this as a point where maybe this is the bridge guy while young Bryce Underwood gets his feet wet and they get him ready for year two? And do you not expect him to play at all? Is he just going to be a part of this room? What do you make of Mikey Keene to Michigan?
I'm happy for Mikey Keene. I'm happy that the Wolverines showed significant interest in him. This feels like, first and foremost, it feels like quite a big reward for him playing, like say, good numbers in the group of five, being a long-term starter, having success at programs, showing that it's coachable and can command a good offense. So for him, I'm really happy. I say behind that potential offensive line, like I say, it'll lose pieces, but it just replaces them. It just feels like there's a moving conveyor belt of strong offensive line play every year. And for him, as you mentioned, this will probably be his final year, and he probably just wants to either A, try to win something big, or B, get a couple of big national televised games in preparation for the 2026 draft and probably go to the Senior Bowl. Makes sense. It kind of feels like a Sam Darnold for a JJ McCarthy situation. Experienced veteran backup. Just offers insurance. Like I said, is Bryce Underwood, is he going to come in straight away and win the job? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but I do feel like you do need someone there to challenge him. Like I saying, if he does have a wobble or if he has one of them games where he will do, like I say, he might have a meltdown. You need an experienced, calm head to come in. And like I said, I expect him to play time, yeah. Like I said, if they both stay healthy, I expect them to come in on certain packages, certain downs. I can see them rotating. I won't be surprised. They won't bring him in, I don't think, this late in his career to just sit him on the bench all year. Otherwise, he wouldn't have agreed to come. So obviously not many assurances up player, but yeah, I don't mind the move. I've said, like say, this year they had a lot of inexperienced guys, and it really showed at times. And they just need, like say, one level head that would be a solid pocket passer. So yeah, I think this would be good for him, good for the quarterbacks coming in like Bryce, and just yeah, it just gives them a different option, a guy that can just sit there and pick off teams if so be.
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance of seeing some game time there. It depends on what they're going to do with the young guys, because you would be hoping that year two would be the start of Jaden Davis's career here, but who knows what's going on with him at the minute, because he was another prized recruit from them, but he's still there as far as I'm aware. There's no other guys in that room who were really going to test, so I think Orgy's now in the transfer portal,
Yeah.
so I'm with you, I would fancy Mikey Keane to start, and
Yeah, I
then
reckon
maybe
start.
Underwood to bring him in like the Archman in role. Like, sort of bring in some design plays, bring him into the system, get him ready. You're not going to be paying him 2.6 million a year to sit around doing nothing. So, I think you will find a way. But I'm with you. I like the pickup. I like when you go for these like Michigan are good with a group of five guys. They brought in the kicker from Arkansas State last year, who was one of the best in the nation. They know their small school talent. They got Oluwatimi from Colorado State a few years ago, and look how good he was for them. He's now a center in the NFL, so they're pretty good when it comes to their acquisition from lower levels. So I'm intrigued. But Mikey Keane, I think he'll do well there. Oh hell, we'll stay on the portal for a bit. He's not the only new quarterback coming to the Big Ten next year, assuming Curtis Rourke is now done at Indiana. Now the playoffs are over. They had a very intriguing acquisition of their own this week, Ryan. Cal quarterback Fernando Mendoza is now coming into town. 3,004 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. One of the highest rated prospects in the portal when it comes to the quarterback position. Kind of just goes to show how Indiana's stock is rising. This is another one. I feel like he's young. He's not played a great deal. He's got potentially a few years there. I think this low key could be a really good pickup for them. And unlike, Rourke, he's a dual threat as well. Don't know about you, but I really like this pickup from Indiana to replace him.
Yeah, and he had a lot of attention as well, Mendoza, when he hit the portal. A lot of teams did reach out to him and a lot of visits. There are a lot of teams who were wanting to bring up the campus. As you mentioned, Cal, it's a huge loss for the Golden Bears for a start. 'Cause like I say, they were on the wrong end of nearly every one-sided score of the game this season. And like I said, quarterback, it's a big thing that this late in the portal to have to try find replacements. It hurts for them. But yeah, he's big, and he's 6'4", like 210, 215, big rangy guy, really strong arm. Like I say, he's got nice feet, can throw on the run, can do a little bit of everything. Like I say, can command a good offense. Like I say, bringing him in, you do expect Rourke has given some indication. He's declaring. Like I say, I think Curtis, it's time for him to go and try his chances. I think he'll be a decent project quarterback in the NFL. But yeah, the pull of Signet, like I say, having this good year this year, like I say, some guys that they're going to send to the draft that have had their draft stock do the world of good. Like I say, it's probably looked at that and thought, well, that could be me in 2 years. Like I say, guys could be talking about me in that sense. So yeah, it means the Hoosiers now, let's say, attractive program. Like I say, they're winning games, they're getting nationally televised games. Like I say, they're getting in the conversation, or they're in and around the conversation. Like I say, to a potential playoff team again next year, that's going to be their dream. So yeah, this new expanded playoff, he's a guy that's looking at that and think, I'd like a bit of that. Cal ain't getting there because, like I say, they just weren't ruthless enough. But like I say, Hughes this year, they have been ruthless. They've shown that they can bite and they have got weapons he wants to work with. So I think this is one of the best pickups in recent weeks. And like I say, he will slot in as a day one starter. Keep him healthy. I expect him to be very productive in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love this move. I think there's a couple of great quarterbacks we've got coming to the Big Ten next year. I'm really looking forward to seeing play, and I look forward to seeing how they do. We want the Hoosiers to continue doing well next year, and that's a really good pickup for them. In terms of some other QB news in the portal, I know the one that made you sigh a lot in the recent week. You didn't want him to go there, but he did. John Mattia has gone to Oklahoma to rejoin his former offensive coordinator. He had maybe better options out there, but I guess still at the end of the day, turning a Washington State gig into a potential starting SEC quarterback spot is not the worst thing in the world for him. But yeah, he's gone to Oklahoma now.
Yep. I mean, no one's surprised. As soon as Nick Arbuckle was signed by everyone said, didn't it, he's going to hit the ball. And an OC is a QB's best friend. Like I say, he's going to create a system. He's going to mold it around him. I'm actually watching Oklahoma right now in the background. And John Mattia for Michael Hawkins Jr., like I said, the freshman right now. Interesting quarterback dilemma next year. Like I said, they clearly thought, like I say, with the loss of Jackson Arnold, they had to bring a guy in case Hawkins, like I say, he's not ready to start. They do have to bring an experienced guy in. Like I say, Mattia's only a sophomore, so he's also got lots of availability to show himself. Like I say, he's a dual threat with a big arm. Where I'm watching right now, Hawkins really good with his legs and throwing on the run. He kind of wants to get out and stretch players where Mattia can stand, big arm, can make all the throws. So it brings quite an interesting complex now. Like I say, Oklahoma has always had pull, got boosters, they get big names, they get a lot of high profile 4 5 star wide receiver recruits. SEC. The draw, like I say, he might have got offered more money to go to other places. He had half the portal probably wanted him. But that familiarity, can't put a price on that, can you? The guy he knows
Absolutely.
calling plays, they trust each other. And has it been a bad year for the Sooners in the first year in the SEC? I'd say yeah. It was very disappointing, like I said, and they lost on their prize assets. And they're going to lose some huge names to the draft. But it's a big privilege. It's a big school. It's a big program with a lot of national pull. It's got one of the best fan bases probably in the country. I understand the pull, and honestly, I'm not surprised. I I'd expect Mattia to win the job and start next year, but I feel like that will be one of the more hotly contested QB battles in the country. The young guy at Hawkins will be nipping at his heels all year.
Yeah, absolutely. You would hope to see him get a good opportunity there, and it can't get any worse for Oklahoma than what they got at the position last year. Maybe someone who's earned his way there is the route they need to go. So quickly ending the portal stuff for now with one last one. I know there was one pickup you were very, very happy with this week, and you predicted this was going to happen. And Brent's probably going to like this as well as an Army Black Knights fan, but you mentioned about a certain team picking up talent from lesser teams and turning them into NFL talent, and that, factory line, the line is now in check. We've got the new heir apparent, Ryan.
Yep. Kanye Udo, the redshirt sophomore running back, like I say, heads to Arizona State, like I say, and it's a huge pickup for them. I think he ranks like top 5 nationally in yards per game in games he completed. He had like 60, 70, 80 yards rushing in every game that he featured, which put him as one of the best backs in the country. Had over 1,000 yards, had like 11, 12 touchdowns. And as you mentioned, like I said, Rashad White, Xavier Valade, Eno Benjamin, Cam Scatterbo, guys that are all in the NFL or about to be in the NFL. Go back 4 or 5 years, and then you get the guy that won the award for the best the best coordinator, Marcus Arroyo, getting a 6 foot, 212 pound running back from a triple option school that wants to pound the ball. Just seems like a perfect fit for a team that ultimately wants to be a run first team, even though Sam Levitt's are. Yeah, he had a lot of good visits booked in. He's a young man, well built. Like I say, he's come from a good, high discipline school. And a lot of people saying, like say, West Point to Tempe, you could not get a more different campus school. But he said as soon as he got there, didn't want to leave. He said, like I say, he's gonna love it there, and he thinks he'll be feeling right at home in Arizona. So yeah, he seems all on board, and yeah, it could continue the chain of another 5,000 yard career rushes. Like I say, so it just keeps going again, and it creates an interesting tandem because they've got Raleek Brown is still the former five-star running back from USC. Like I say, got Taysom Brown. So yeah, they've got a really deep pool of running backs again next year. So yeah, it was good to go out there. And yeah, I haven't seen them commit yet, but Zion and Zachariah Branch, they visited Arizona State last weekend because they're looking for another wide receiver. They come as a package, I imagine. They're both pretty much convinced they're going to go to the same school. I've seen yet some like tweet emojis, but I've not seen them commit yet. I've
They've
not
not
seen them
come.
say where they're going.
They've not committed officially. They did get the Washington State safety Adrian Wilson today, so
Yeah.
that's one of their safeties. But and like he's a freshman, he's a youngster, he's very
Yeah.
highly thought of
Like
there.
50 tackles this year, like I say, led their team in tackles, and they're losing a set. Yeah, they're losing some defensive backs to the portal, guys that go at the draft. So yeah, they're reloading again, like I say. So yeah, and if they do get one of the branch receivers, like I say, that'd be another great weapon, especially as a special teams returner as well. So yeah, they're doing their due diligence in the portal as well again.
Wouldn't surprise me if the Branch brothers were at a certain game next Wednesday, let's say, maybe
Yeah,
checking out
I'd
what
imagine that might make their mind up, like I say. And if they get those two, then like I say, Sam Levitt can have a lot of fun with John Tyson and Zachariah Branch.
tell me about it. That could be a great pairing, but I love the thought of Udo in your backfield. Like, put on something for him as a low-key Heisman contender next year if they're going to just let him run the
If he gets
rock
the amount of
like Cam
carries that these
Scattergood.
guys get, he's just going to go for the roof. It won't be sharing. It'll be splitting carries, but he's a straight up lead back.
Oh yeah, yeah. He'll get the Scatman treatment this year. They'll just give him a lot. I don't know what he's like as a receiver. I think he's all right, but obviously Army don't throw the ball much, but you would expect him to be a good blocker as well. So three
Yeah,
down back.
he can
So
definitely block at his size as
yeah,
well.
exactly. So great pickup there. So yeah, we'll keep mentioning the portal and bits that happen. There's lots of news happening all the time. Anything else out the ordinary happens, we will let you know. I know there's a few guys defected from the Big Ten to the SEC. Air Nolan's gone to South Carolina. Bo Pribula's gone to Missouri. So maybe we'll see some former Big Ten guys get their shots down there. Right, let's move it on and let's talk playoffs. It was the first round of the inaugural 12-team playoff the weekend just gone. And, we spent all last week talking about the games. We held maybe a lot of optimism and excitement that potentially this could be the beginning of something brand new and exciting. The nearest of these fixtures that have been played between any of these teams was 1996. So these are a lot of fresh matchups, but maybe, just maybe, it should be 30 years again until we see some of these. We'll go through them chronologically as they happened. But as I said, I don't want to be entirely negative about this. Trying to look at some of the good players in there, guys who've done well. Try even on losing efforts. There's been some really big performances here, and some players I'm really looking forward to seeing if they commit to the draft at this point. We'll see. But we're going to start off with the all affair. Notre Dame and Indiana. This one kicked off last Friday night for us. It was the first one on their obviously local rivalry between these two teams who don't play each other very often. The Fighting Irish versus the Hoosiers. Um, so Indiana started this one off. First drive, they went three and out after a Joshua Burnham tackle for loss. However, Indiana made the first really big splash play of this game. I think it was the second play of Notre Dame's first drive. The nose tackle, James Carpenter, battered a pass from Riley Leonard into the air, and it was intercepted by cornerback D'Angelo Pons. So first turnover of the game went to Indiana, and then Indiana got down into the Notre Dame red zone pretty quick. Elijah Sarrett, their star wide receiver, he made a tremendous catch against Christian Gray, the cornerback, to get them down into the red zone. But then Curtis Rourke, he just made the smallest of errors, but it's the small ones that matters. He narrowly overthrowed his receiver, Keyshawn Williams, only by a few inches. It went straight past him, straight into the arms safety in the entirety of college football you don't want to throw a football to. It's him, his sixth interception of the year on the 2 yard line of Notre Dame. So teams traded interceptions on those drives there. And just to really douse that particular wound in a vat full of salt, Jeremiah Love then hits a 98-yard touchdown run that there is a really big gap dug out by the left tackle, Anthony Knapp. Love just has to beat Pons to the perimeter, and there's nobody left to stop him. He's gone. He's got breakneck speed, houses it from 98 yards out for Notre Dame to take a 7-0 lead. Indiana do threaten to hit back. They've got a big run by Tyson Lawton, sets up Indiana nicely at the Notre Dame 40, but the next 3 downs, they only yield 2 yards, and they make the interesting decision to punt from the Notre Dame 37 rather than give the kicker an opportunity to put some on the board. And the punter only hits it about 20 yards to the Notre Dame 17. And Notre Dame really punished this cautiousness from them. They put together this really grueling 9-minute touchdown drive that spans over 16 plays. They do get very lucky on this drive. So Indiana linebacker Jalen Walker and their defensive back Sean Asprey, on one play they strip the ball out of the tight end Mitchell Evans's arms, and it flies out, but it goes straight to the Notre Dame wide receiver Jordan Faison, who's able to recover it for them. So they get really lucky on that. It's unfortunate for Indiana, but after that, Notre Dame makes short work of it. They get down to the 5 yard line. Riley Leonard finds Jaden Thomas from 5 to finish the drive to put them 14-0 up. Both teams then punt before Indiana gets some offensive momentum going. Rourke has good completions to Sarrett and to Miles Price to get them again into the red zone of Notre Dame, but it ends in just a field goal from their kicker Radicic. He hits it in from 34 yards to make it 14-3. Indiana are then the victims of an awful refereeing call. So they've got Notre Dame at 3rd and 6. Jordan Faison is ruled to have caught a catch from Riley Leonard, but you can clearly see when he hits the ground and rolls, the ball hits the ground and it helps him make the catch. The refs can see this, but they somehow still give it as a completion when it should be a punt. That allows Notre Dame to be able to drive down and get another field goal just before halftime. Jeter hits it in from 49 yards, and it's 17-3 to Notre Dame at the half. The teams trade 3-and-outs to start the second half. Bryce Young for Notre Dame's side has a massive sack on Curtis Rourke, which cuts their momentum dead. And then Notre Dame start to put together a load of long, bearing drives on the Indiana defense. The next one is 6 minutes, but Indiana do make a red zone stand. So James Carpenter gets one of his 2 sacks on the day on Riley Leonard. They repel 3 downs from their own from the 4 yard line, including a 4 yard tackle for loss from Amare Farrell, one of the DBs. Notre Dame have to settle for a 33-yard field goal to make it 20-3. Indiana's next offensive drive is then killed by a false start. Again, another quick one, which puts their defense right back out there. And then another 5+ minute drive from Notre Dame really starts to grind Indiana down. But again, they hold firm in the red zone. So you have Amari Farrell and Jamari Sharp who combine for a sack on Riley Leonard to force a field goal. And then the nose tackle, James Carpenter, blocks said field goal, gets a big hand up on it, is able to just swat it out the sky to keep the score 20-3. So Indiana's defense really did everything they could in this game to keep them in it. Their next offensive drive lasts 5 plays before a punt, and then Notre Dame sort of crack the exhausted defense open. So Jordan Faison has this huge 44-yard catch before Leonard runs it in from the 1 to make it 27-3 to effectively kill the game. With 4.5 minutes left, Indiana do finally put together a good offensive drive, but it takes 3 minutes. Curtis Rourke finds Miles Price on a screen, and in fairness, he beats 3 tackles to reach the end zone. It's a really impressive play for him. He stretches his arm out blindly looking for the end zone, but he's able to get it. Rourke finds Surratt for the 2-point conversion to make it 27-11. And then Radicic, he hits the most perfect onside kick you will ever see. It's like this squib one which hits a divot, bobs in the air, and Elijah Sarrett, the star wide receiver, is actually able to recover it with just 84 seconds left on the clock. It takes them less than 60 to get another touchdown. Curtis Rourke's able to throw a 23-yard back shoulder dime to Omar Cooper, his other star wide receiver, for another Indiana touchdown. And a two-pointer here would have made it a one-score game. Unfortunately, they are not able to get it. It makes it 27-17 to Notre Dame. And then Kuricic, he hits the exact same onside kick. It bounces up in the air again, and Indiana are about an inch away from getting this thing again and potentially forcing a third touchdown in about 60 seconds. Unfortunately, it's just out the grasp. I think it's of Surratt again, and they're able to kneel this one out to seal the win 27-17. And I mean, right, the scoreline, we're not going to make no bones about it. This a 10-point loss flatters this. Like Notre Dame were really, really good in this game and just sort of boxed them from the off. But, you know, people saying Indiana don't belong in the playoffs and, this kind of shows a team like them should have been in it. I thought their defense was amazing in this game. I thought two parts of their team showed up to play ball. They were let down by one, and they didn't make this easy for the Fighting Irish. But ultimately, it's just a little too late, but they've not played in the playoffs before. It's a learning curve. It feels like it's been a good one for them. It's a dominant win for Notre Dame, who have now got a massive opportunity, but I didn't mind this game per se. I saw a lot of good from Indiana here, just except the offense.
Yeah, there was a lot that Indiana will take from this game, take into next season, and they'll use it as a platform to build on. I suppose all the flaws of the season kind of was exposed because once again, Indiana, they just couldn't run the football. Like I said, that was the thing. Like Rourke was having to take shots at guys like Xavier Watson. We said last week, like 2 weeks ago, don't do that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to test these guys and, like I say, be on the wrong side of the battle. So, yeah, their offense was unable to sustain drives. And then, like I say, I don't know, they played too safe. Like I say, you don't give your kicker a chance, but then, like I say, if you're going to punt from the opponent's 36, you've got to pin them inside the 5. You can't just punt for 20 yards because that's just, it ends up looking a bit cowardly. So neither result there worked for them. Like I say, they should have just gone for it and risked turning it over by missing a kick in the end. And yeah, the defense played its heart out. It could, like I say, for best part of 3.5 quarters, it was gassed. Let's say the guys were tired. Guys like they could rotate in guys like Jeremiah Love and their running back core, and they were just able to chip away. And like I said, then Jordan Faison, who had a monster day. Like I say, returning, rushing, catching. The guy did a little bit of everything. He is a really fun player to watch. He was a walking highlight reel in this game. And Leonard, like you say, yeah, just kind of picked his shots when he had to. Like you say, he didn't put the ball's harms in hardware. Like I say, first interception, got over that, and then like I say, just pick guys off. But yeah, you look at the scoreline, it was like 27-3 with like 5-6 minutes to go, and you think the game's over. Like I say, they've dominated. In the end, like I say, I never really felt the chance of them getting back in it. But the scores, they really needed them just for themselves and their own morale at the end. But yeah, Indiana proved that they did belong there. Like I say, they made Notre Dame fight. They made them work hard for this result. And it's a fantastic win for the Fighting Irish. It really gives them a platform to build on. Some teams would gladly play a quarterfinal. They don't like the week off, or they don't want the bye. They don't get rusty. And they
Yeah.
go into the next game now full of confidence, one of the country's best running backs. Like I say, one of the best secondaries. Their defensive line was also really good. It couldn't have gone much better for them. Like I say, Signetti will still shower the players with praise. Like I said, they could have dropped their heads at the end of the game. They knew, like I say, 3 scores down. They knew it was over. None of them sulked. They didn't feel sorry for themselves. They didn't, like I say, they could have just checked out and, like I say, just gone into autopilot to end the game. But no, onside kicks, try to make it interesting. It was just a little too late in the end.
It was. And this is my argument. Like people going, these were, they didn't deserve to be there. This just shows they didn't be there. How do you expect teams to ever get good enough for the playoffs if they're never going to have the opportunity to be in them? You can't just expect them to get good one year and then be in the playoffs and be a playoff caliber team. You've got to have experience. As far as Indiana is concerned now, they're going to have a whole clutch of players come back next year who have played playoff football, who have played in big games. And I know the scoreline may not say it, but they were noticeably better in this game than they were against Ohio State. And that's just one game. Like that Ohio State game is the biggest game they've played in years, and they look totally out of their depth. In this one, they looked a little better. And the more times they play in big games, the more times they play in these situations, the better they're going to keep getting. They're never going to be able to get top recruits, and they're never going to be able to get guys with playoff experience if they're just barred out of it because of one performance. I think this is where you need to draw the line, and you need to say, look, this is going to be a good experience for them. They will be better for it. But in terms of, like, let's just go back into their defense again here and how good it was. And you want to pour praise on them here. 11 tackles for loss on the day, 4 against the pass, 7 against the rush, 2 sacks, interception. Outside of the massive run that Jeremiah Love had, which was 92 yards. He only had 108 yards. He had like 16 yards on his other 7 carries. Jadarian Price had 32 yards on his 11 carries. They didn't run over them. They were able to get the pick in there. They were able to make this a game. But there's one guy I really want to label in on here, and I've talked about him a lot. And this was a massive breakout for him, game for him. The defensive tackle, James Carpenter. I cannot say enough how great this guy is. One of the transfers in from James Madison this year, playing his first year in the group of 5. In this game for him, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 2 further hurries on the quarterback for 6 altogether, 6 tackles, 6 run stops. He batted the pass in the air, which led to the interception. He blocked a field goal on special teams. You know, we talk about these defensive tackles who come out of the Big Ten. Keanu Benton was the guy I loved forever and a day before he came out before. This guy, Ryan, like he made him like his sack, he made a mess of their right tackle and took Riley Leonard down on his own. I think this is a really special talent they've got here, and he's a 6th-year guy, so he's come into the draft this season. But they're big players. Him and Mikael Kamara, who had 7 pressures on the day. That D-line did everything it could to give them a fighting chance, and some of these guys have really done their stock well going forward. But Carpenter especially, he just Notre Dame couldn't deal with him.
No. And it's become very fashionable in the NFL now to have these potential undersized nose tackles that can win and generate pressure at the middle. They don't have to be big guys like, say, look at Byron Murphy, look at Kalijah Cancer. The guys that play in the middle can play hat on a hat, heads up, and they can take on guys, defeat blocks, and generate pressure from inside out. That was the kind of, like, say, the blueprint now of like what some teams want in specific schemes and specific fronts. So yeah, Carpenter's got production now, like say, at one level, and now he's got it at the highest level, and that'll work wonders for his resume. And yeah, Kamara as well. Like I say, want his best day. Like I say, generate pressure. Where some plays where they went right after him. Like some big blocks where couldn't set the edge, but that's just because of Notre Dame. Their tight ends and offensive line was just so good at sealing the edges off and able to, like say, create these holes to run through. So they've gone up against some of the best now, and yeah, these 2 guys will be better for it. And some guys, they've got some great tape now.
Oh yeah,
Ball, the Shrine Bowl. They might get a combine invite. So yeah, they'll be delighted that they can finish their careers potentially playing, like say, in a college football playoff game.
absolutely. Yeah, Kamara got done on that touchdown run by the left tackle. That's what everyone's pinging him for. But outside that, he had 7 pressures on the day.
It's just a great block,
That
though.
left, it was. Sometimes you get got. Sometimes you get got, and the gap and this tight end went out left. He came inside to the right. Like you could have fit me through there, and I'm a fat. So like it was huge, and he just had to go 1-on-1 against the corner. And Jeremiah Love ain't ever losing one of those battles there. But CJ West, he was the Kent State transfer D tackle. He had a best day of everybody. He was so good against the run. Jalen Walker had the forced fumble. There are so many good players on this Indiana defense who did themselves good in this game on the Notre Dame side. So obviously they shut down really most of the run game that Indiana had. They were able to put a lot of pressure on the day. They had 4 sacks themselves. The D tackle pairing's one of the best in the country with Riley Mills and Howard Cross, although they've lost the former for
Yeah,
the
this is
next game,
dominated, isn't it?
which is, yeah, that's big coming up against Georgia. But it wasn't pretty from them. I will say they're dominant, but they were helped by not going up against an offense. It wasn't dominant, but the defense does look legit for them. They were all over Rourke in this game, and again, it was two really good defensive lines, and we mentioned it, who really had great games here, and they've got some studs on there as well.
Yeah. A defensive line, it generates pressure, it gets tackles for loss, it bends, it doesn't break. It's just really physical. It never looks that outmatched by anyone. Like I say, it gives it's relentless. There's some good engines. They slow down, like I said. And the core of a Marcus Freeman team should always be a relentless engine on the defensive line. We've seen them in recent years where they've had loads of standout guys that can play every snap of the game. They don't take no breaks, and they're kind of there to harass, and just kind of be a general nuisance. And that's kind of how he likes them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about it again in a bit, but they've got a big opportunity next week coming up against a wounded Bulldog per se, who are going to be without the star guy. So it's essentially a free hit for them. But for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, well done. But for Kurt Signetti in Indiana, hold your heads high. That was a hell of a good defensive performance from you, and I think they've got a lot to look forward to. And with Mendoza coming at quarterback now, I think the future is very bright for Indiana, and they could be back. They might surprise us again next year, depending on what their schedule looks like. Shout out to everyone in the building who's joined since we've been on about that. Lisa De Lorenzo, Mile Marker are in the building. Mile Marker goes, "Did I miss the moment where I would brag on NDSU?" No. Well, no. Ryan picked them. They won. NDSU are in there. He's picked them to win the whole thing as well against number one ranked Montana State. So go for it. They look good against the Jackrabbits. They finally broke their curse against them. Was it 3 in a row they'd lost against them before that, or was it more?
Yeah,
It
I
was,
think Cam Miller said he'd never beaten them, so it must have been three in a row.
yeah. So, obviously they hate losing those. So, yeah, well done, Mile Barker, for that. Minnesota done some good business in the transfer portal this week as well. They got that big guy from Nebraska, the wide receiver, massive commit from them. So they're nicking people from their rivals there. Right, let us move it on. And we will go next to, in the pecking order, it was SMU Penn State next. And again, this sounds stupid given that they gave up 38, but I'm going to allow the defense here a little bit. But yeah, this was a very defensive battle early in this one. SMU were able to force consecutive punts from Penn State, either side of Penn State forcing a turnover on downs on SMU, which was a bit of a ballsy move from SMU early on, which did not pay off. But then Kevin Jennings started the mother of all meltdowns, which lasted the majority of this game. He completely overthrew an open receiver, went straight to the linebacker Dominic DeLuca, who housed a pick six from 23 yards out, and just like that, it was 7-0 to Penn State. SMU then go 3-and-out on their next drive. It's just 3 run plays because when your quarterback throws a pick six, you don't let him throw on the next drive. But their defense comes up with a third straight stop. Elijah Roberts, their star edge rusher, is able to get a sack on Drew Aller to force them to punt for a third time. And then SMU do go back to Kevin Jennings for the next drive. And in fairness, he gets them to the Penn State 41. But then there's a 6-yard tackle for loss, which puts them back in 3rd and 16. And Kevin Jennings then proceeds to throw what might be the worst interception you may ever see in your life, and there have been some bad ones. Like, he rolls out to the right, he just casually lobs this thing about 15 yards right into the hands of the linebacker, Tony Rojas. He has absolutely no right to return this thing because there's SMU offensive guys all around him. But not only does he break 5 tackles, he houses it from 60 yards out for a second pick six of the day. And with the Penn State offense doing absolutely nothing, it's 14-0 to the Nittany Lions. And once again after that, the SMU offense punts after a series of runs because again they stopped Jennings throwing the ball, and then the poor SMU defense, who've made 4 stops in a row, they then make another stop, and not only that, they turn Penn State over on downs on their own 19-yard line, giving SMU prime real estate field position at the Penn State 19. They get to first and goal at the Penn State 6. And then Jennings throws his third pick of the day. He throws it straight at Jalen DeLuca again, who's on the edge. Throws it right at him. He bats it in the air. He catches it himself. He runs it out 15 yards to about the 25 of the 25 of Penn State. And this just kind of seems to mentally break the SMU defense, who've tried so hard up until this point. It takes 3 minutes for Penn State to advance all the way down the field. Katron Allen finishes the job on the ground from 25 yards out. He hits a crease down the left, and you can see the SMU defenders are already knackered by this point. It's 21-0 to Penn State. Then SMU try and get really brave. They go for it on fourth down on their own 46. Jennings is absolutely devoured on an 8-yard sack by Danny Dennis Sultan. Gives Penn State the ball on their own, on SMU's 38. They run it every single play down to the one where Nick Singleton finishes it off for another touchdown. It's 28-0 to Penn State, and SMU punt to end the half. And this game is already effectively over at this point. SMU do make a quick start to the half. They have a big pass slash a personal foul combo, which gets them to first and goal at the Penn State 5. But then they have 2 false start penalties on those set of downs. It kills any momentum. They've got to take a field goal down 28, so it's 28-3. But SMU's defense, it still keeps fighting. Elijah Roberts and Harrison Hunt, they sack Drew Aller. Then on the very next play, Elijah Roberts and Harvey are able to sack him again, but then there's a killer personal foul penalty which wipes it out. But they do eventually hold out for a field goal against Penn State to make it 31-3. SMU's offense, then puts together a lovely 4-minute drive. They get all the way to first and goal at the Penn State 2, and then a microcosm of what their game was. They false start to take it back to the 7. They miss 2 throws. Then Abdul Carter gets a massive 18-yard sack to send it all the way back to the 25. And then Colin Rogers, the kicker, misses the field goal from 42 yards out. So from being first and goal at the 2, they end up missing a 42-yard field goal. Penn State then just rub this in. They go 75 yards on 9 straight run plays as Katron Allen gets his second rushing touchdown to make it 38-3. SMU quickly punt again. The defense gets yet another turnover. Brandon Crossley picks off the Penn State backup, Ethan Grunkemeyer. And this time, finally, SMU are able to take advantage. Jennings hits Roderick Daniels from 28 yards out for a consolation touchdown to make it 38-10. And then the game ends after 2 more punts and a whole load of kneel downs. But again, Ryan, I never thought I would say this about a team that gives up 38, but this SMU defense came to play. 4 straight stops to start this game and turning over the opposition on their own 19, and they're down 14 zip. I mean, that's just not fair on that unit. They did nothing wrong here. This is one of the worst quarterback performances I've ever seen in a big game from Kevin Jennings. This part of that team belonged in the playoffs. Part of them didn't, and it led to another blowout.
Yeah, it was a disaster on it. Like you say, I imagine before the game, Rhett Lashler probably told them all the one thing you can't do is you can't give them good field position. You cannot turn the ball over because we're playing one of the best defenses in the whole country. You can't take risks. And yeah, Jennings, for a lot of the game, he looked like a rabbit in headlights. Like I say, some of the throws, some of the turnovers, they're absolutely criminal. You question what he's seeing because it certainly wasn't what we were seeing on the game, on the screen. And yeah, the defense in the first half, it busted its balls constantly, get clearly backed up, put in bad positions. Like I say, put in bad position to try to defend their own goal. It's doing its best. Like I say, it's trying to keep its head above water, knowing the offense is going right out, and they're just going three and out or turning it over, and they know within a couple of minutes, oh, catch your breath because we're going to be back on the field again very soon. Like I say, they're just trying to stem the bleed. In the end, the defense also gives up. That's purely because they're just knackered. They've got nothing left in the tank in the second half. As you say, coming to end the first half, everyone knew this game was over. It was not a contest, not because of the defense, like I say, because of the offense, and just, yeah, the least complimentary football I've seen all year. And I imagine Rhett going at that. I can't imagine he had many savoury things to say. I bet the language was pretty blue at halftime. Because, like I say, Penn State, they were bang average.
They looked
SMU,
horrible, didn't they? Their offense
SMU
looked
beat
terrible.
themselves. SMU made enough plunders and issues to beat themselves that the Nittany Lions didn't have to be good. And they coasted for a lot of the game. They really didn't have to work that hard to put that many points on the board. And for them, probably a dream day out. They never got out of third gear. They run up to score, put some backups in. Like I say, and this another result. It doesn't take away from SMU's done this year. Yes, it was horrible by their standards. It was a disaster, and it'll be the only thing that people talk about. But they can still hold their heads high for getting there, having such a fantastic year. Yes, a scoreline that they never want to have again. They will not look back at the game with fond memories. But yeah, it was one of those where they fell behind so quickly. Then suddenly you have to do things you don't want to do. You've got to go for it on fourth down every time. You can't punt. I can't kick field goals. And then naturally, they lead to turnovers on downs and turnovers purely because you're rolling the dice and more often than not, you may lose. So yeah, they backed themselves so far into a corner that they just had nowhere to go in the end. And yeah, Penn State, in the end, I think they felt a bit sorry for him. Like I say, the punts nailed down. They kind of just put them out of their misery a bit like what you say when you see when an animal's been run over, you just put a rock to the head. That's kind of felt where it like I say, and I felt sorry for the fans that attended, the players, the coaches, like I say, because yeah, it was sad all around to see it happen like that.
Well, yeah, put it this way, I never expected to be at this point now talking nicely about the defense and badly about the offense. We thought it'd be the other way around. Like all
Yeah,
year,
they've led by
SMU's
offense
offense
all
has
year.
led them. And then the defense this year has been like it's an incredible performance. For 38 points and everyone to go, well, they can't have a good performance. Like the first 14, they didn't give up. And then for their offense to just keep going three and out all the time and punting so quickly, they're going to get knackered. And Penn State looked awful on offense. They had nothing until they wore SMU down and they were able to run the football. But they are like Boise have got a massive opportunity next week because Penn State do not fill me with any sort of confidence. But again, just giving love to some of the guys on the defense who's been battered all day. Elijah Roberts is the star edge rusher for them. He had a sack. He had six pressures on the day, a couple of hits on the quarterback there as well. But just look at some of these guys in the secondary and how they held up. Brandon Crossley, their corner, on the day, targeted four times. He gave up no completions. He had an interception and a pass breakup. Did himself the absolute world of good. Kobe Wilson targeted five times, gave up two receptions just for 22 yards. There was Deuce Harmon, one of the other corner on there, targeted twice, didn't give up a reception. Like these guys fought so hard. The defensive line did what they could. They got 21 pressures on the day on Drew Aller. Again, did everything they could in there, and they were not able to. For Penn State, though, they owe a lot to their defensive line as well for being able to cause so much ruckus in there. Their linebackers got three turnovers and two pick sixes. We know how good Penn State linebackers are. They look good on there, but I mean, Abdul Carter looks scary in this one, right? Right, like Their offensive line couldn't do nothing. Where Abdul Carter wanted to go, Abdul Carter went, and no one or nothing could stop him. And they tried. They put so many guys on him, which opened it up, for the likes of their other edge rushers to come through. Dennis Sutton had 6 pressures on the day. He really benefited from that. He had a sack as well, but I mean, Carter just looks scary at this point, and he's going to be such a high pick in the draft, and rightly so.
Yep. Just interrupt. Navy they've just upset Oklahoma. Oklahoma went for a
They were
2 point. Oklahoma went for a 2 point try to win the game, and they got sacked. Navy win.
they were two they were 14 zip down last time I looked, Navy were.
Yeah,
How the
they
hell
were
have they
14-0 down. They're about to win 21-20.
how the hell do you lose to a service team when you're up two
What a second
scores?
half performance. Yeah, they've been phenomenal in the second half.
Oh, well done, Navy. Go Navy, go services teams.
Like you say, yeah, Abdul Carter, he looks every bit as advertised, doesn't he? Like I say, he was able to manhandle that SMU offensive line. And Jennings, like I say, for as good and as mobile as he is, and can be a bit of an escapologist, Abdul Carter, he's got size, he's got speed, freak athlete, and he's just a deadly finisher. He's an expert marksman when he gets in the backfield. And yeah, you're looking at a top 10, top 6, top 7, top 8 draft pick next year. I fully expect him. I think he goes first off the board, not James Pierce Jr. I think Abdul Carter will be the first pass rusher, like I say. And like I say, a lot of teams, like I say, it's a premium position now. They're going to pay a pretty penny maybe to trade up for him. He was a one-man wrecking crew at the start of the game anyway, and he really put them behind the sticks far too often.
Yeah, absolutely didn't. Again, there's just so much talent on this Penn State defense. Like the linebackers look great. I know Rojas is only a second year guy and he looks like a tenured vet already. I'm probably going to take that coveted number on the defense when Carter's gone. But I don't know. You look at the start of this game, and I know we'll talk about the Boise one later, but I don't see anything for Boise to be scared of outside of Abdul Carter really there. You look at them and like SMU could have had him. Like this is why I'm not against SMU going back because their defense did enough of a job to make this a game. They just couldn't. But Penn State don't look anything special.
Yeah. Maybe it's because I don't watch enough Penn State football, but I know everyone's delighted that Drew is returning. And a lot reckon he'll be the number one quarterback in the draft in 2026. I've just never I'm not seeing what everyone sees. Like I said, I know he's a fantastic game manager, can make all the plays, but whenever I watch him, I just think he's really average. Like I say, for me, like I say, the pocket awareness, 8 a few sacks. Like I say, he's not the most mobile dude. Like I say, that arm. Like I say, I just look at him. Do I think a quarterback that, if you take away the run game, can Drew Aller win the playoffs on his own with the receiving core and the offensive line? You'd have to say
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. I mean, Lisa's just said in the chat, both of the quarterbacks look bad. And, Allah looked fine. I think this is why he's coming back because I'm like you. I can see.
Definitely not ready.
I can see the flashes in there. I think he needs more game time, and I think it's a very sensible decision from him. Could he be QB1 next year? Potentially. Is he there right now? No,
It's
not
a lot
even
more fun
close.
to do what.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've not really looked far ahead to see who the class might be, but I still wouldn't really put him up there at this moment in time. And this is me. I've been a Penn State stan for a while now, and I still don't see it either. I think his decision to come back is entirely merited, and it's a good thing for him because he needs another year to clear everything up, especially if one of Singleton or Catron Allen declares this year. And I'm pretty sure Nick Singleton has declared. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's going to. So we will see with it, but. For SMU, yeah, it was disappointing, but yeah, their defense was really good. That's all I'm going to say. And there
The
was some great
ACC as well
defensive
is so weak.
performances.
SMU's got a great chance to go straight back because
Yeah,
the ACC is pony.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, hopefully Jennings learns from this, and he comes back better next year. And again,
Preston
he's
Stone, he hit the portal, didn't he? So
yeah,
Jennings, let's say there's no competition next year.
no,
Your
and
job.
again. And again, this is experience now. SMU will get a whole bunch of players coming back next year who have playoff experience at a higher level against better teams. That will make their team better, and that's why these teams should continue to go to the playoffs. And I will bang that drum until the very end. But yeah, Penn State beat SMU, a little bit one-sided, unfortunately. There. Moving on. And then we had the clash of the two teams who had never met before, which I just couldn't believe that this was actually really a thing. But of course, we had Clemson against Texas, and the scoreline may be a little bit nicer here, but I still think this was a pretty one-sided game. So Clemson actually started this one really well with a lot of fire and vigor. They put together a 7-minute, 12-play drive ending in a touchdown. Cade Klubnik found Antonio Williams in absolute acres of space. I don't think it was busted coverage or something. He's just strolled him from 22 yards out, and it was opening drive touchdown from Clemson. And you're thinking, hey ho, we've got a game on here. But Texas responded with basically an identical drive. So the drive, their opener, went just over 6 minutes, also went 12 plays, also ended in a touchdown. So Quintravion Wisner, he had a 3-yard touchdown run in. And outside of a Trey Williams sack on that drive, Clemson's defense offered very little, which was, a worrying sign of things to come for them. And then Texas really turned the screw in this game, in which was the sort of key component of this. So Clemson's next two offensive drives combined went 7 plays, 44 yards, resulted in 2 punts. Texas's next two drives went 11 plays, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So Jaden Blue, the running back, he housed the first one from 40 yards out on the ground. An incredible display of speed down the sideline to outrun like 3 Clemson defenders from him. And then Wisner ran in from 16 yards, completely untouched on a cutback for the second. And just like that, in that little mass of drives, Texas have a 21-7 lead. Both teams then forced turnovers. So Colin Simmons, the young freshman, he picked off Cade Klubnik after Barron Sorrell batted a pass up into the air. And they say Colin Simmons picked that one off. But then Clemson were able to turn over Texas on downs, defended their own 17. Texas got a little bit maybe too aggressive, and they were able to turn it over. Clemson then go 3-and-out, but Silas Bolden, the returner for Texas, nearly fluffs the punt catch for Texas. He drops it, but he is able to recover it. But then a massive backbreaker of a play for Clemson. So RJ Mickens, the safety, he picked sixes Quinn Ewers to seemingly make it a one-score game. But after he picks it, Trey Williams, he gets pinged for an illegal blindside block that not only wipes off the touchdown, but it costs them 15 yards on the field from the spot as well to take it all the way back to about midfield. They are able to get back into the Texas red zone, but the Longhorns defense holds and they're forced to take a 32-yard field goal from Hauser. It makes it 21-10 with 93 seconds of the half left. But Texas, they just need 60. Quinn Ewers leads a really great drive downfield, and he finds his tight end Gunnar Helm from 19 yards out for the touchdown just before the half to make it 28-10. And Clemson at this point seemingly facing facing a real big show to get back into this one. Texas's first drive after the half, they kill 7 minutes, helped by a DPI from Clemson to get them out of a 3rd and 13. But Clemson, in fairness, they're able to rally from a 1st and goal at their own 5 to give up just a field goal, but it still makes it 31-10 to Texas. Punts are then exchanged. But then Clemson, they just start to threaten a little bit of a comeback. So Cade Klubnik has big completions, first to his star tight end, Jake Brinningstool, and then to his wide receiver, Jarvis Green, for a touchdown pass to make it 31-17. Clemson are then able to get a turnover on downs, defending their own 36. Texas, again, get quite aggressive. And then they're able to put together a 5-minute drive, which ends in Cade Klubnik converting a 4th and 6 to TJ Moore to force the touchdown to turn it into a one-score game. It's just 31-24 at this point. But then Texas take 2 plays to score. Jaden Blue, he breaks an arm tackle and he nitruses his way past three Clemson defenders. He houses one from 77 yards out, which makes it 38 to 24 and immediately reestablishes the two-score lead. Clemson then take 3 minutes off the clock. It's a very tough drive. They get to third and goal at the Texas 1. They get a first and goal from the Texas 5. The Texas defense forces a turnover on downs on fourth and goal at the 1. Keith Adams Jr. tries to run the ball in, but it's a 1 yard loss. It's a great stand from Texas's defense with 7 minutes to go to keep it a two-score game. Texas then takes 6 minutes off the clock. They take it from 7:20 down to 1:43. They themselves, they get to a 4th and 1 situation at the Clemson 40. Arch Manning comes in to try and convert it because again, they get really aggressive on fourth down, but he's sacked. He fumbles the ball. He does recover it, but Clemson are able to turn it over. But then they get turned over on downs themselves again, a 4th and 6. It gets really desperate, and Texas are finally able to kneel this one out. And I know the scoreline suggests this was a little closer eye, but after that first set of drives, the 7-all, Texas really turned a screw in this game, forcing 2 punts, getting 2 touchdowns themselves. They got a little too aggressive maybe at the end, and this was a little closer than it might have been, but you never really felt the danger from Clemson coming back in this one.
No. Scoreline doesn't really do it justice. Like I say, Longhorns controlled this game for large periods. And for me, it was pretty simple. A whole man's up when I was very adamant that Clemson were going to get the upset. I was very wrong. Phil Maffer, man. I bet next day there were milk cartons, there were missing posters all over Clemson. Like, say, where is it? Goes missing again, doesn't he, in a big game? Like, say, K. Klubnik is a young man. He can't do all this on his own. Clemson, 0 run game. Like, say, whereas Wisner and Blue becoming quite an interesting Thunder and Lightning running tandem out there. They're quite scary on the day, actually, Texas running the ball now. It's not just the Quinn Ewers show. Like I say, so they were very impressive. But yeah, Kate Klubnik, I suppose as he's done all year, has kind of just got to live and die by the pass. He will take risks, he will put balls in bad players, and he will make big throws and big plays to try and dig him out of a hole. I'm a firm believer this game may go differently if the RJ Mickens pick 6, you don't get the bad block. Like I said, because the score would be a lot closer going into the half if he does house it and you don't get the block. So that was a big turning point at the end of the first half. But yeah, then the second half, like I say, there was lots of negative players. Like I say, the Texas D-line, the Texas defense, just so good. You just got to go look at guys like you say, Jadair Barron, guys like that that just look. They're star players out there. You got like you say their safety tandem. Yeah, you've got
looks awesome.
Helfer, like say those do it all guys that run in the box. They're linebackers, defensive line. Texas is very stout, and they're happy to put their guys like say 0 safety cover. They'll blitz and they'll bring them up the linebackers. They'll just put their corners out there and just say like we trust you to do your job. And yeah, like I say, you've got Bryant Westcott Jr. on the star freshman receivers in the nation, but couldn't do it on his own. It felt like he was like the only real target, and you kind of take him away. And like I said, they've just got Jake Bringstall that you can kind of neutralize Clemson and slow them down a little bit.
I mean, this was the big story coming into this, wasn't it? And where Clemson have let themselves down. Texas were the 69th best rushing attack in the nation before this game. Like they're not even they're barely a top 70 unit. They rushed for 306 yards. Quintravian Wisner, 15 carries, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, going at 7.3 yards per carry. Jaden Blue, 14 carries, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10.4 yards per carry. And this, you just can't do that when you've got the 70th ranked rushing attack coming up against you. You can't give up 300 yards plus on the ground because then that just makes life easy for Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, old defense, old Clemson would never have done that. You think about guys like Clelin Farrell, who was a Clemson Tiger, wasn't he? Brian Bree. They always have a star interior defensive lineman, don't they? That just anchors them. Do they have that right now? I don't feel like they do. It feels like that defense is there for the taking, and it can be a little bit flimsy. And we saw it, yeah, badly exposed against what has been, as you say, a bang average rush offense. Like I say, two talented backs that have just not really clicked, and it's not. But this year game, like I say, yeah, they just both exploded in a massive way. And in the end, the ability to just control the clock. Clemson never stood a chance. Like I say, fall behind, can't manage the clock. Every time they get the ball away, time has just been drained because Texas could just chip away at them, run the ball, and yeah, in the end, they never really did stand a chance. And Quinn Ewers, like I say, pretty clean game by him. Arch never really in danger of coming in or in relief of him, like I say. So yeah, it was a potential banana skin that Texas handled real well. And Steve Sarkisian showing he's one of the best coaches in the country right now. Like I say, this year he's been an outstanding coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we look at draft prospects from these teams because there's potentially going to be quite a lot. I mean, Jaden Blue and Wisner, there's one certain offensive lineman they really like to run behind for a reason. And my God, how good does he's getting better week by week. Kelvin Banks, like th- blue chip potentially now at this point. How good was he? Like, I think at least two of the touchdown runs behind him, and he's just taking guys and just swat like they're not even there.
Yep. If he gets hands on you like he did, especially in the goal line stuff, he's driving guys 4 or 5 yards at the end zone. No one's laying a glove on him, and like he just says, "Run behind me," and he just clears a path for you. And yeah, he's a dream. And like you say, yeah, anyone like I say that badly needs a tackle, like I say, I'm looking at Chicago next year. They will be all over someone like Banks. I imagine they're in their prime position to take him. I'd hate to see it, but from a logical sense point, if you've got any sense, you take a future stud offensive tackle. Like I say, yeah. And for me, I don't see a lot of starting tackles in the draft. There's only a short handful this year. If you get one of them, it's a luxury this year. In recent years, we've seen offensive linemen flying off the board in round one. I don't see that this year. So anyone that's able to get Banks, like you say, then you're very lucky. Yeah, he looks like a franchise tackle with versatility as well. He's got a mean streak to him, and you've got to. They're the rare guys these days that can have a bit of nasty about them.
Oh, absolutely. Like the more I see him, the more I get excited, and I'm like, I know we're never ever going to be in the conversation thing because
Because
he's
far away,
potential. He's a top five
I
pick.
would take him as Decker's future replacement.
Yeah,
I'd love him if we could get him.
yeah. He's a top five pick. Like I don't know what's going to happen in there, but he's got top five pick potential about him, and he does look like the star out of this lot now. And called it earlier, and he's the one I want here, especially for his run game stuff. Just watch him. He's Penei Sewell on the left hand side of the line. Like, could you imagine Kelvin Banks and Penei Sewell as your run blockers? Like, there could be guys who'd be having absolute nightmares about that. But for Texas,
Bear
they
in mind,
look
Texas as well did this about Isaiah Bond. Very
yes,
impressive. They didn't even have their star receiver on show. Didn't
no.
need him. They're still able to stretch the field very well. And I'm pretty sure I know he's practicing, but he's still questionable for the semi-final as well.
Exactly, but their defense is stacked though, like as you say, isn't it? I mean, Jahdae Barron looks like an absolute star. Andrew Makuba down there looks like an absolute star. Again, these are all going to be guys playing Sundays, and they're going to get picked high in the draft, but they look really good. And then was it Baron Sorrell, the one in the middle who I've not really seen before? Massive game from him as well. There's so much NFL talent on this team. It's not funny. And then you've got guys like Colin Simmons, the young true freshman in there making a ton of plays as well. They are really well set, but they could lose a lot this year to the draft.
Oh yeah, a lot of these guys have got any sense. You go when your draft stock's high. Like I said, Barron, the versatility, like I say, strong safety, free safety, weak side linebacker. Probably has got coverage skills to play in the slot or nickel. But like I say, what like 6'2", 215, 220, hits like a truck. Anyone that plays like say a box game like a Buda Baker, like I say, you bring him down hard in the box for tackles for loss, play coverage. Guys like that these days, you cover them because they can do so many things and they can cover so many positions. Like I said, he will be someone that a lot of guys will have been there to watch just him. And he'll be someone like I say, yeah, that will be flying up draft boards.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. So we're going to see a lot of these Texas players' names called this upcoming draft, and they look damn good. And I mean, I guess we'll talk about it in a little bit, but maybe you're sweating a little bit more now that this is the team you're going to be facing next week in Arizona State. If they run the ball like that, then they're a whole different animal entirely. You've kind of got to rely on putting the game on you as a shoulder to stop them scoring points. But now, Wisner, Blue, Banks, these guys, it's going to be a very tough ask.
Oh yeah, because this is where having a week off sometimes can work against you. They've been practicing, like say, for 2, 3 weeks now for this game, and Texas are coming, like say, red hot. Their run game is just chewed up ground, and like say, they're huge favourites. A lot of rankings, a lot of guys, like say, put Arizona State as bottom of the power rankings of the playoffs. So they've got all the motivation in the world they need, but yeah, they're coming up against an absolute juggernaut. And like I say, yeah, they're going to have to take away the run game.
Yeah, absolutely they are. So we will have a talk about that in a bit. But Texas, they look damn impressive, and Clemson, at least they're back in the picture this year. Hopefully, it's a team who's
Yeah,
beginning
their
to
year
find where
started
it's
really
at.
badly, but it ended really well, which,
It did.
like you said, there were some people had doubts about Dabo, but he kind of squashed them as soon as they came around.
And I think they've realized the D line is an area that like that's traditionally where they're strong and
Yeah, because
where
they
they
went and
win
got their
games.
first auto player, didn't they? They
Got
got the kid from
Will
Purdue that they were like,
Will Held,
yeah,
and he is
massive
he
defensive end.
he is literally one letter away from having the greatest name ever, which would be Will Hold as a defensive lineman.
Yeah,
That would
six
be
foot seven.
hilarious. Yeah,
Skyscraper.
yeah, and like that Purdue team's been so bad that you won't see the talent in there, and he is a very talented kid as well. Like he's gonna do big things at Clemson. And people are like, oh, it's a Purdue transfer, they're not very good. That doesn't mean they don't have talent there. Will Held was I think
And
there was
Caleb Williams,
50.
like I said,
There were
showed
over,
flashes of this year being the best quarterback in the country.
yeah.
Last year, I had doubts about his maturity. This year, he was on fire at times. Like I say, he looks like a guy going into 2026. He looks like a future potential first overall pick if he
Yeah,
can continue to improve.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, great performance there from Texas and enticing next one up for them there. And then to finish it off, I mean, people were moaning and complaining about SMU and Penn State been SMU and sorry, Indiana been in the playoffs and how, all these mid SEC teams should maybe make the playoffs instead. And then the SEC mid team that did make the playoffs probably looked worse than those two combined. And this was a big shocker because I thought this was going to be the game that was the most competitive of the lot of them. Of course, we're talking about the Tennessee Volunteers at the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I mean, we glazed Tennessee quite a lot last week and poured a lot of scorn on Ohio State and their ability to work in big situations. Tennessee's fans took over the shoe. They were there in number, and I just saw videos all day. Like Ohio was packed with Tennessee fans in there. Just a shame for them. Their team did not show up. They lost 42 to 17, and this doesn't do it any justice to how bad a game this was. Or should we just say how good Ohio State were to start this game? They started on absolute fire in this opening drive touchdown. It went 5 plays, 75 yards, and then boy wonder himself, Jeremiah Smith, who teams are going to start tanking for now at this point in his, he's going to be in the draft in 3 years' time. Teams are going to start tanking for him now because he's that good. But yeah, 5 plays, 75 yards, 7-0 on the board. Tennessee's first 3 drives in this game, 3 plays, 7 yards, 3 plays, minus 18 yards, 7 plays, 22 yards. Ohio State's 5 plays, 75 yards, touchdown, 5 plays, 68 yards, touchdown, 7 plays, 58 yards, touchdown. This thing was 21 nothing within 12 minutes of the game starting. Now, Tennessee kind of got themselves back into this in the second quarter. They picked off Will Howard on there, but they had a field goal from Max Gilbert. Iamaleavu, the quarterback, had a touchdown run just before the half to make it 21-10 to maybe set up a little bit of a thought in this that they could get back into it, but then they just got absolutely murdered coming out the half. Again, their first two drives of the half in the second half, they went 6 plays, 8 yards, 6 plays, 18 yards, punted both. Ohio State's first two drives of the half, 6 plays, 65 yards, touchdown, 9 plays, 81 yards, touchdown. Tennessee then got turned over on downs after a 6 play, 14-yard drive. Ohio State's next drive, 5 plays, 39 yards, touchdown. Um, basically, I'm not even going to really go down into this too much. Ohio State started each half completely on fire. Tennessee started off like ice cold, and by the time they got back into it, they'd given up 20 points, and they were just incredibly, incredibly disappointing, Ryan. This now gives credence to all those saying the SEC teams, the Bamas should be in, the South Carolinas should be in all this. Tennessee were better than all of them this year, and they had their ass handed to them. And for all the criticism I've given Ohio State, I will hold my hands up and say that was the best performance from any team in the playoffs this weekend, hands down, bar none. Their offensive or defensive line just absolutely murdered anything Tennessee tried to do, and their offensive line and their playmakers just completely ripped that defense to shreds.
Yep. You best believe as soon as the result was finished, I went straight to Twitter and I went straight for Lane Kiffin. I was straight in his mentions, like you said, because he has been banging the drum for the SEC and this bullshit. Everyone went for Lane Kiffin. It was just funny. But no, we said, didn't we, keys to the game were Jack Sawyer, GT, Tumilau. Can those two do their thing and disrupt that offensive team? And they were terrors. Like I said, they chewed up multiple sacks, tackles for loss. They gave absolute nightmares. And this Ohio State team, it took one of the best running backs in the entire nation. Made him look like a chump. Like I said, Donald Sampson absolutely could get nothing going whatsoever because the offensive line was folding like a deck of cards most of the time. And I knew Nico Iamaleava. I knew it was too soon, too much for him already because I've watched him a lot of times this year, and I've thought does not look ready. And then I saw him a big game, and like it confirmed, not ready. Might be next year, but all too much too soon. Like you say, he was another guy that looked a bit startled at times, but also he just had no time. Like I say, the coverage, like some guys like Birkin, that was sticky. There were no separation. Like I say, he was just having to hang in the pocket and get for the reads. And he was just running for his life at times, getting harassed by the defense. I go with you. Best Buckeyes performance all year. The best performance of the quarterfinals of anyone. Like I say, they were fantastic. And like I say, Ryan Day needed this so badly. Like I say, he needed a convincing win. Like I say, yeah, that Ohio State's O-line, Will Howard, who's been just very accurate all year, just makes very few mistakes, like you say, and then a run game. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith, it's the production line, isn't it? Ohio State is a receiving conveyor belt. And already this young in his career, he already looks like the next star that's going to walk off of it after Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, it's crazy how well they do it. And like you say, he's going to be an absolute star next year.
I mean, I said, Marvin MHJ is going to be a top three receiver in the NFL like one day, and he will be. Jeremiah Smith might be top one receiver in the NFL one day, the way he plays. He could be even better, which is absolutely crazy. Like you said, just straight off this game, he took the bull by the horns and he was in. And like you got the figure he's going to declare as soon as he physically can. He's definitely asking for an exemption when he gets there because it looks already like he's got so little to learn. Like his route running is so nuanced. He's so good. He even does the dirty work for them as well. Like you see him getting stuck in there, and there's no prima donna in him. He's all player. Maybe it feels like, they had the flag planted on them, which obviously is embarrassing. But I think Tennessee having such a sheer number of fans in their home for a playoff game, that seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back, and they're like, we ain't having this no more. That might be what found them their backbone.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think when you look up in the crowd and you see a lot of white and orange in your home stadium, that's a motivator. Serious chip on the shoulder, social media as well of all the, like I said, we're going to come to your house. Like I said, we're going to take over. We're going to do this to you. We're going to do that to you. Like they had a point to prove. Like I say that people don't just come in to the shoe and nobody comes in and takes over, and nobody out physicals them. They're one of the most physical team in the countries. Their defensive backs, like you say, their coverage is tight, but they're also very physical. They will push the boat of between good coverage and interference. They're handsy. They grab. They pull. Do a great job of getting away with it. They're super sticky guys like that. Like say Denzel Burke, I think a lot of guys will love him in the draft for his man coverage skills. He's someone like say can stick to a guy like glue and very physical. But yeah, and then yeah, the linebackers, the defensive line, they feel like they're the heart of the team. Everything really goes through them and how they can kind of just disrupt what another team wants to do. And yeah, I kind of get it now why you see Mox, the Lions taking Sawyer, the Lions taking Tumilau, like say their defensive tackle. You look at it, I kind of get it now, and I think like they are gritty, physical downhill players, and a lot of guys like value that. And yeah, they're going to be integral. And a lot of people I'm saying now, I've seen a lot of people say now, like say Ohio State, they think they can win the whole thing. And I've won solid opponents, like say, you look at them and think they could. The pieces are all there.
See, we've got the perfect game next week, Oregon and Ohio State, because I want
Yeah,
one of them
I
to be
love a yeah,
frauds.
I love a rematch. The
Yeah.
first game is good. I expect this to be better.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget Ohio State should have won that and lost it because Will Howard lost his, control of the clock. He forgot what time it was. So that was how close that was. It's going to be absolute banger. But we did mention it was the trenches that was going to win this game. And you look at the trenches, Tua Molau, 7 pressures, 2 sacks. Jack Sawyer, 7 pressures, 2 sacks. Tyleek Williams, the interior tackle, 6 pressures on the day. Completely folded anything that was able to come, Tennessee's way. And then on Tennessee's side, James Pierce Jr., 3 pressures, but he didn't get to Will Howard and didn't really was not really able to have an impact on the game. And then you look at the offensive lines, like for Tennessee, they were just not able to block very well on the day whatsoever. They had an injury at right tackle, which obviously didn't help them as well, but they just gave up far too much pressure. Ilami Lieva got sacked 5 times. I mean, he posted his line for this game, 14 of 31 for 69 yards. That was Curtis Rourke-esque when Indiana played against them, but they won the trench battle convincingly, really, on both sides. And again, it was the key to victory. They dominated. They dominated the scoreline.
Yep. I mean, the key to any good championship team is usually the trenches. It's either having elite offensive line player or elite defensive tackles. And Ohio State's got loads on the side, like Donovan Jackson. He is one of the top guards in the nation right now, and he's gathering, like say, that fringe first round top 50 NFL draft pick. Same Mott's lines, like I say, position of need. Like I say, in the run game as well, he offers a lot of values. I could see us kind of going down that route as well. So yeah, they've got they've got the staples you need to go on title run. Can you run the ball behind your tackles? And do you have guys that, if they can't get to the quarterback, can get into passing lanes or flush the quarterback out and generate pressure? Got them in abundance, like I say. And if you have those two things, you will be competitive, or you will be in most games for a long part because they are the quarterback nullifiers. You could have put a very experienced, world-class quarterback behind that Tennessee offensive line. Still would have struggled, wouldn't it? So let's say he didn't have any time.
No,
Put Will Howard behind that line. Will Howard would struggle
yeah,
because they
exactly.
constantly try to throw on the run.
Exactly. And James Pierce should be worried because Donovan Jackson was playing
He's
left
on the
tackle,
drought. It feels like James Pierce Jr., all that hype last year,
has
it feels
gone.
like this year he has deflated.
And because we mentioned this last week, Donovan Jackson has been playing left tackle this year. He's had 3 games where he struggled. He struggled badly against Indiana, who've got Mikhail Kamara. He struggled really badly against Michigan, who've obviously got Kenneth Grant and guys like that in there. He struggled hugely against Penn State, who've got Abdul Carter. He struggled against NFL caliber edge rushers. He gave up one pressure in this game. One. And that was it. He's quite clearly not a left tackle caliber in the NFL. He's so far away from it, it's unreal. And he couldn't get nothing against him. Maybe he needs to go back because he's a junior this year. He had that great sophomore season. I think he should go back because I don't think he's ready just yet. Maybe he could be one of the best edge rushers in the nation next year, but he's not where I thought we were with him. And for the rest of, and then it kind of just fell apart for the rest of the Tennessee defense. You can't really expect them to do much when the line's getting absolutely manhandled. Some of their really key players, sort of in the secondary at linebacker, just not able to have much of an effect on this one. And yeah, Ohio State, you were good. Hold my hands up. We were wrong about you at this particular one. So that is everything in terms of the playoff games from last week. But there's been a lot more games on this week, right? Obviously, we've not really chatted about bowl season this much so far because having the playoffs here has kind of disrupted that. Because usually at this point of year, it's just all about bowl games and bowl games only. And for the most part, the bowl games can be a little bit meh here, there, everywhere, and you don't get a lot of good. But bowl season's low key been pretty good this year. There's been some incredibly good ones. Like even just last night alone, like this, we went to six overtime.
We had five overtime, which broke the record, and then a day later we had six overtime, which broke the record the day before. Crazy stuff.
Exact, exactly. And you just kind of just don't know where this thing's going. But how much of it have you watched so far? Like yesterday, I was watching Rutgers threw away a massive
Yeah,
lead
I
in
watched
their
that.
game and looked so good against Kansas State. But low key, one of the best games at a bowl game I've ever seen, and I've probably could put three or four in there as well. But what's been catching your eye in bowl season?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of games. Like I say, I saw the Pitt v Toledo. Like I say, full credit to Toledo, who have had, by their standards, a very down season. Like I say, and a Pitt team that at one point was riding high on the crest of a wave, kind of flattened off. Like I say, they were fantastic. Toledo, like I say, their offense, they were happy to go toe to toe with against one of the better powerhouse P4 teams in the country. Like I say, they were fantastic. Like I say, I've watched actually a lot of the bowl games this week, and yeah, it's odd having bowl games and playoff games, but I kind of like it. I've noticed, let's say, the bowl games. I watched the one game was in Hawaii the other day. Florida.
Oh, that was a banger. 41-39. That was USF winning against San Jose State.
Yeah, like I say, goalless wins back to back. Like I say, they did look really good. And like I say, yeah, I saw the Florida game. Like I say, and
They battered Tulane. They looked
yeah,
so good to end that one out.
DJ Lagway and Jordan Ball. You just look at them freshmen and just think the future's so bright for Florida. They've got some
Mm.
absolute stars and they've got loads of talent coming in. And then you look at Tulane and you just think, God, star running back hits the portal. They lose their quarterback. Like I say, they're scrambling for the backup. Like I say, it was Ty Thompson playing in the game while he's in the portal and having an absolute disaster. And you're thinking, why are you playing? And then you look at some other games. We've seen a lot of players in the portal playing in their bowl game. And we've never really seen that, it feels like. But this week I've seen loads of them. Some of them have done really well. Some of them, like I say, have had disaster.
I feel like the vast majority have been really good. The one that I really particularly enjoyed low key, Arkansas State at Bowling Green, you think, oh, that's just
Oh,
too random
Harold
as
Fanning Jr. breaking the record.
he's broken pretty much every record going. So Harold Fanning Jr., 17 catches, 213 yards and a
Broke
touchdown on
Jason
the year.
Mario's record, didn't he, for what, right, tight end receptions in a season?
So he's broken the record for tight end receptions in a season, and he's broken the record for most tight end yards in a season, which was held since 2013. Akura was it or something? I can't remember. Amore. I'm losing
Jason
track.
Morrow, yeah.
Jay
The Jet,
Samaro, yeah. So
the Jet drafted him and it was a bust.
he's broke his yeah, that doesn't figure very well, does it? But like for Arkansas State, Butch Jones, 7-win season, really good season for them. They win their bowl game 38-31, but then Connor Bazelak throws for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just honestly, two teams who I've low-key really liked this year. I like the head coaches. I like what they're about, who just went, you know what, screw it. We're all gonna play, we're all gonna have a good time. And it was an absolutely smashing bowl game. But for Harold Fanning, surely now, where's the ceiling for him in the draft? Because it's got to be high now. Like, the dude's just an insanely good receiver. And I know it's Arkansas State, but he's done it against power opposition this year as well. The dude's legit. He's better than Warren. He's better than Warren.
As a natural receiver, which he will be, I suppose you kind of look like, where was Isaiah Likely drafted?
Round three,
Yeah,
by
I've got
Baltimore.
you've got to put him around there, haven't you? Like say day two, between rounds 2 and 3. I reckon that's the sweet spot for him. Like saying he's a naturally gifted receiver. I probably wouldn't even ask him to block at the next level. I'd probably put him as a lead block as H-back, but I'm just going to line him up as a receiver because that's what he does best. Like I say, he's been an absolute stellar this year. He made some ridiculous catches in this game as well. He's got such soft hands. He's such a good athlete. Like I say, yeah. I think, like I say, yeah. If Colston Love, I mean, Colston Love, like I say, he's obviously he's got the frame and everything. People say he's a consensus first round, but I say Harold Fanning has got every right to be the second, third tight end drafted off the board.
6'4", 230. You know, you
Yeah,
stick 10, stick
solid
15,
build.
stick 15 pounds on him. Like, you've got a good blocker in there. But the guy's just sensational, and it's been a privilege to watch him this year. But this, like honestly, this slate of bowl games has been really good. I mean, you look at K-State from yesterday. I don't know whether you got a chance to see it. They were down by loads, but Rutgers were running the ball incredibly well. They look set for the future. So I think it was Antoine Raymond, their star guy. He had like
Yeah, my known
18
guy was on the
carries.
sideline but didn't play.
Yeah, 18
I don't know what he's
carries.
doing.
Who? Oh, Monaghan guy. I
Yeah, I'm
think
not
he's
sure
coming
what
to
he's
the
going to do.
draft. I think he's coming to the draft. I could be wrong. But Antoine Raymond, they look in good hands there. 18 carries, 113 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Freshman 6'6"
For him
receiver.
on the
Is
day.
it KJ Duff?
Yeah, he
Oh
had.
God, how good does that kid look? He's an absolute monster.
I was told of them. I'd have to look up at him. Even Calliot Manis looked pretty good in this. He was solid. His percentage accuracy wasn't very good, but the throws he did make were very good. So Rutgers look in a good place for next year, and hopefully they don't lose too many people to the portal. Avery Johnson looked good. Dylan Edwards looked great for Kansas State. They don't even
Yeah.
miss.
We won't miss Giddens with Edwards. He's so
They
good.
just again 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. You lose a guy like DJ Giddens and you're not losing him. Like you say, it's just a conveyor belt, isn't it? The guy before, like they just K-State running backs are absolutely great, but just some top tier plays in some of these bowl games, and hopefully it continues. A lot of guys putting themselves into it. A lot of guys who are actually draft eligible who are still playing
Yeah.
in these games as well, despite the fact that they are going to the draft. So the winners at the minute. So South Alabama have won one. Memphis beat West Virginia. That's Group of Five beating Power Five.
KJ
James,
Donaldson going to Ohio State, which is very interesting.
I low key like that. That could potentially be very good there. James Madison won their bowl game, so 9-win season, bowl win. Like we're not talking about Bob Chesney that much this year. Obviously, they were always coming down from Signetti, but 9 wins and a bowl win, that's not a bad year for Chesney. It's a really good start point for them next year. Expect them to be good again very
Yeah.
soon.
Alonzo Barnett is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He isn't low-key star.
Absolutely. You'll hear his name a lot from us this year. UNLV won their bowl game. They've got, Anthony Colandrea has gone there. What do you make of that? Because Malik Williams, I think, still has time, but Colandrea, as a freshman
Good
for
about 6 year,
Virginia,
yeah, Hajj Malik Williams, yeah.
has looked good. I love the fit of Colandrea
He
there. I think
shows flashes, and is like I say, as a proper athlete and dual threat. He's just not had a lot of playing time as a Cavalier. So yeah, I think it'd be quite fun to watch an offense.
I'm looking forward to that. UNLV should still be good, and it's an 11-win year for them, which just a couple of years ago they'd have absolutely taken. So you've got to love that. So San Houston State, they won a bowl game. Obviously, no Casey Keeler there now, but 10-win season for them. Ohio, they won a bowl game, so they've won the MAC and they've won a bowl game. Incredibly good season for them. UTSA won a bowl game, down year for them, but they'll take the bowl win. Northern Illinois beat Fresno State. They got one there. USF, they got bowl win. Toledo. I mean, just talk about that Toledo game for a minute. I mean, that was, again, some of the best football I've seen knocking around. That Pittsburgh D line again was at the start of this game was creating turnovers at a rate of knots, and you're thinking, how can Toledo hang with this? But they found a way, and their offense was just it was able to come to life eventually. Tucker Gleason had a really good game, but it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Was it Vanderos, I think, who's I don't know much about him,
Yeah,
had
they were
like
saying Justin
250
Vandeross.
yards, but I mean, just it was just so fiercely fought, and that Pittsburgh team I already love, and Toledo were great. It was a fantastic game.
Yeah. You see with a lot of ball games though that teams are just more willing to roll the dice out there. They will just go for it on fourth down. You'll see trick plays. Like I say, I won't have to look at today. Like I say, fake punts from for touchdowns. Like I say, pick sixes, special teams, blocked kicks. You will see way more trick plays and special team risks in ball games because they're just trying stuff for next year. So many more teams will try a fake punt in a ball game because there are no repercussions to losing. But winning it all, like say, you get a trophy, you're nationally televised. Like say, the guys, they're all seniors, get to go out. So you pull out all the stops. You will see some bags of tricks in ball games you'd never see in a regular season game. They won't even try this kind of stuff sometimes.
No, absolutely not. And one guy I really want to see. So Desmond Reed, like he's one of those another undersized. He's like 5'8", 180 for Pittsburgh, but he carried the ball 35 times for over 200 yards. Like it's his senior year next year, so we'll see. He's had 1,000-yard season this year. I don't think he'll declare. We'll see. But if he goes back, I mean, he looks a monster for Pittsburgh. Hopefully, this team will rebound after the disappointing end to the year that it had. Other teams have also say Kansas State, they won against Rutgers, Arkansas State have won, and then Navy. Navy of all teams beating Oklahoma 21-20, which just ends, Ryan, a thoroughly miserable year for Oklahoma, who probably didn't really deserve to go to a bowl game in the first place. But for Navy, hell, they'll take this year. Blake Horvath, he's had an incredible year. Yeah, it ended a little bit sourly, but they've still ended as what, a 9-win team and a massive bowl win for them. Like the service teams this year have refocused our look on them now. They're not looked as just a pain in the neck anymore. They're genuine contenders again now.
Yeah, like I say, 10 win season. And like I say, they've also done this with, like I say, didn't they change coach? Didn't Brian Newbury only get made interim head coach a couple of months ago? He did,
Possibly.
didn't he? Yeah, like I say, Brian Newbury wasn't the coach to start the year. And like I say, if we're talking, like say, quarterbacks that you could consider as Heisman, Blake Harvard probably put up as many Heisman quarterback numbers as any quarterback in the country and didn't get an ounce of consideration. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country all year. And he won this game today with a crazy 95-yard rushing touchdown, outrun the entire Sooners defense. Like saying, absolutely, he just gashed them through the day. And also had some big passing plays as well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, I think he's now their like all-time passing leader. Like he set the most passing season yards in a season, which for them like is not a lot, but for them that's pretty massive. So yeah, so
That
he's going down as a legend in Navy midshipmen's eyes.
That'd be a trivia question. Over under on the passing yard leader for the service academies
I
in
think he said
history.
I think
But
he's thrown the most passing yards since like 2016, so 8 years.
Lord, it can't be. It's got to be like, 1,000. I don't know. I don't know what it would be, but you
If
figure
I had
it's
to
not going to be
imagine, I
much.
reckon it's probably a Keenan Reynolds record. It's probably broke.
Yeah, potentially.
He
So,
was over.
well done to Navy there.
Oklahoma.
Sorry.
Your best hope next year you're gonna blow it all up and start again. Like I said, they've got an offensive coordinator that's now 29. The defensive coordinator is only 30.
Mm,
That might be the youngest coaching tandem in the country. So fair
yeah.
play to them. They're going fully back to basics and just blooding in new guys.
And just give Mattia the job. Let him do it. He's,
Yeah. I
you've
saw
seen.
flashes today of Hawkins on the run, but not in the pocket. He made
Mm.
some he made some ridiculous passes on the run. Incredible athlete, but I don't know how I feel about him in the pocket under
If any,
center.
if anything, it'll provide good competition for the
Yeah,
season.
I
Hopefully,
think
you'll.
next year, like I say, yeah, they will be an interesting duo. You'll
Yeah,
see running players. Hawkins will come in.
yeah. They're clearly going down the dual threat line, which
Yeah,
is their way. So, you would, because you think for years they were a pocket passing team. Your quarterback just would stand there and like Dylan Gabriel when he was there, just sit there and throw bombs all the time. That's all they did. They seem to have completely. And Arbuckle runs that RPO scheme where you have your quarterback in a lot. So
they've got a chance to succeed. These coordinators, they're so young to want to be future coaches. This is where you're going to make your name.
Brent goes, Blake Horvath made my day miserable. Respect. We'll add a couple of questions in here, which we'll answer, and then we'll quickly do some playoff stuff because we'll need to get the next show lined up. Lisa goes, do you think the Lions will draft a DL player in the first round this year? I think that was going back to the Ohio State lineman discussion, but do you think
Mm,
D-line is high on the menu for them this year in the first round?
no, I think it's offensive line. It's
Ooh.
time. We're going to have to. I mean, realistically, I think we're losing. I think we're losing Glasgow and Zeitler this year. We've got Mahogany. I also think we've got. I mean, Decker and Ragnow. 2 years.
Mm. This is my argument. You've got to start making some long-term.
Got a plan now, and yeah, if any of the, if we multiple them lose next year and you're filling in holes, like say the best O line in the league, it's been here a long time. Like say you get shock retirements, don't you? You're gonna have to
And
start planning now.
And you're running out of places on the roster for them because you've got Manu, you've got Mahogany, and you've got Sorstal all occupying spaces on the 53 right now. And if they're not going to contribute and you bring in more offensive linemen in, you're not going to have much room between your starting five and your development guys
I
for
could see us
backup level
drafting a
talent.
starting guard, like I said, a
I
left
think
guard.
I think you've got to start making. I think you've got to get someone who could potentially start day one to mitigate the circumstances of having all these
If
guys in
Zeitler's
there.
going to return, then don't let him test free agency.
So I
You
know,
offer him a deal there and then and say you take it, you stay in if he's going to stay.
yeah.
I think
So
Glasgow. I think Glasgow, if I don't retire, it's love him, but I think you move on this year and you give Mahogany the job.
So my market did ask us this last week. We've not had a chance, but we've got homework. He does say in the draft if we're going to have a Glasgow replacement who can maybe do some center like Frank, who would you pick? So we'll put that in next week's show. So have a think about that. Interior lineman, maybe you're looking at
No,
this
not
year
but
to.
not he's not this season he's already returning, but I would have picked Jake Slaughter before but
Yeah.
he's decided to return now. He is the Ragnar replacement I want in 2026.
Well, there you go. You've got a part answer there. We've got to find we've got to find a potential Glasgow replacement next year, although maybe Mahogany, but anyhow. Think of your interior lineman for the draft for next week. Where was I? I mean, oh, Brent means I mean the Army Navy game, of course. Yes, of course. He made you miserable for that. He goes, I hope Ryan is right. I want the centers to start grooming behind Rags. I think we all do. We just do not have a natural center on this roster behind him, no matter what anyone might say. So we've got to start finding the next guy going forward for him there. And centers, there's not very many of them in this year. So maybe waiting 1 year will be great, but certainly we need a high level guard in to start having a look around at. There was a question from Grandizer. So Ant and Ryan, so far, Carson Vinson, the Alabama A&M offensive tackle, is the only HBCU invitee to the Senior Bowl. Have you seen game tape on him? Your thoughts? I've not seen much on Carson yet. I don't think, unless we did something on him last year. I know he's huge. He's like 6'7" and 310 pounds, and that Alabama A&M team generally do a really good job with their offensive linemen, but I don't know. Have you seen anything yet? Have you looked at the HBCU prospects much this year as of yet? Because a lot of them haven't declared yet. I know a lot of them go into the Legacy Bowl, but I've not seen a lot. And if I remember rightly, Gerald was a bit down on the chances of the class this year. I think he said there was potentially two guys who might go the distance. I'm not sure.
I've seen plenty of games and I watched the Celebration Bowl and I'll watch Legacy Bowl, but I've not looked down at players now.
We'll have a look there for you, Grandizer. But I know because in previous years, like last year, we've listed like six, seven, eight guys we reckon who might get drafted, and then none of them did. But then this year, he reckons there aren't as many. But we'll see. I will never write them off anyhow. We will have a look at them there for you. Marmarker goes, "Hey guys, before you go, I'm fishing for a happy birthday. It's my birthday today, Capricorn. Happy birthday to you, mile
Happy
marker."
birthday.
Yeah. Hey, we're all close to one another. My birthday was 6 days ago, so I've turned 35, but there's a lot of people who've got birthdays around this time of year. But happy birthday to you, and we really appreciate having you in here, mile marker, because you're one of the regulars. So, thank you for that. But hope you're having a great day, whatever you are doing. Hopefully, we get a Lions win on Monday for you as well. Right, let's just have a quick look. So we quickly end up with the playoffs coming forward. I did kind of maybe want to go a little bit more in depth on this, but the games are not till next week anyhow. Um, the second round, Ryan. I mean, this is going to be a very interesting set of fixtures. So we've got Texas at Arizona State. We've got Boise State at, Penn State at Boise State. We've got Ohio State at Oregon, and we have Notre Dame at Georgia. Let's start with Penn State at Boise State, because we talked earlier about how we didn't think Penn State were all that and have not looked great so far. Boise are at home. They're the fourth seed this year. They are the last underdog standing, hence why this was called Boise in the Hood. They're the guys who are down in the hood. They're down in the underdog alley, fighting to make their way in a world full of rich guys, NIL, everything's against them here. What do you feel about this game this week? For me, seeing Penn State last week has just reinforced my belief that Boise have a chance in this game. Now, they've got to find a way to nullify that D line of Penn State's and the pass rush. And what better way than to have one of the best running backs in the nation take the pressure off your quarterback to be able to do so? But how are you feeling about Boise and Penn State? Is there any belief there that they could do something, or are we going to see the last underdog down?
It's as you say, to protect Maddox Madsen, you're gonna have to hand the ball off a lot. But you can't just beat Penn State running the ball. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you could go out and get 160 yards on like 20, 25 carries, and I firmly expect him to be able to do that. But would they still win the game? Probably not. Maddox Madsen is going to have to make plays with his arm, and guys like Camper are they going to have to find some separation, and they're going to have to make some splash plays going through the air, which means there will be times where that offensive line is going to have to sit and sink into pass coverage, and is going to have to be able to go one-on-one, hat on a hat with that Penn State D line. If they don't win those matchups and they're just trying to do check downs and screens and get the ball quickly out of his hands and out the backfield and ask guys to do stuff, and it's going to be short plays and relying on Yak, they're going to struggle unless they can mold a pocket for him to sit and move the ball further down the field. I think they'll struggle. Now we saw an SMU team that I believe was top 10 in sacks in the country.
Hmm.
Boise State is also top 6 in the country, I believe, in sacks. So I don't see any issue with the Boise State D line getting to Drew Aller. They will sack him. They will get him there. They're going to need turnovers. Those sacks and those pressures, passing lanes are going to have to turn into forced fumbles and interceptions. So their defense are going to have to take the ball away, and it's going to have to generate. It will have no issue getting pressure, but it's going to turn the ball over. It's going to come down to, yeah, can they play complementary football, Boise State? Can they? They can't just rely on the ground game, which have done a lot this year. I think they're going to need a bit more through the air. I see Penn State probably surviving.
You agree with the 11 and a half?
I think the Nittany Lions will win, but I think Boise State could make this game very ugly and unpleasant for them.
Do you think the 11 and a half point line is disrespectful to Boise, given they're at home? Because people forget where Boise is. That is not an easy place to go. Like geographically, if anything,
Albertson
it's
Field, it's tough to go there. But when I
yeah.
look at if I compare the line to Texas Arizona State, which is 13 and a half, I'd probably say it's fair. 10 to 11 points is probably fair.
Mm. Yeah, for me, it is all about Ashton Gianti. If he plays well, he keeps the pressure off Maddox Martin. You take away Penn State's biggest weapon, but at the same
If they
point, Penn
bottle him up
State,
and if they chop him down and that, it will be an ugly blowout loss.
but at the same time, yeah, Penn State's its run defense is one of the best in the country. You know what
Yeah.
its linebackers are like, even down to the secondary.
They're
You've
gonna
got
they're just
guys,
gonna pack the box.
yeah. You figure if anything, Boise are going to have to pull something out their ass, like they did against UNLV in the championship game. They threw it early on. Like, I think UNLV came out, loaded the box up, and they started taking advantage of the one-on-ones and throwing on them. Maybe that's what you're going to have to do here. Just completely surprise them. Don't give Gianti a touch for the first drive or two. Just throw the ball and get them off piste and then try and lighten that box a bit. But it does feel tough. But again, that Penn State offense doesn't do nothing for me. If they can keep this a low score, because the line is 53 and a half, I think if this game is below 53 and a half points, Boise State can win it. I don't think they can get invested in a big shootout where maybe they're behind and they're having to throw and they're having to put themselves in danger all the time. Make it ugly. Just don't do what SMU did. Don't turn it over.
Don't turn it over.
Win the turnover battle by two and you win. That's generally the rule of thumb. Win it by two, you win. Unless you're the Texans against the Lions. Moving on then. So Arizona State versus Texas. It's at Tempe, and as you said, 13 and a half point deficit for Arizona State. And in the power rankings, they're bottom for the playoffs. But where are Arizona State in the power rankings for the Big 12 at the start of the season? At the bottom. What did they do? They won it. I mean, this is a different kettle of fish, right? You are coming up against the Texas team. It was one of the best teams in the country for a long time before its loss. It probably is one of the best teams in the country. They now have a legit dual threat at running back. They've got the best left tackle in the game, Quinn Ewers. They've got a guy who is one of the better quarterbacks in college football. And as we've mentioned, that defense is just absolutely stacked to the brim with NFL talent coming up against your plucky guys, and your offense is good. It's now not just reliant on Cam Scatterboo. Sam Levitt is a great passer. They Jordan Tyson in great receiver in ability there. You've had receivers you've got guys who've stepped up in his absence though. You've got playmakers there. You've got your running back. You've got a good offensive line that can run block. Your wide receivers, they block. This is a team that's bonded by its culture. It's bonded by its underdog status, and we know with the Lions how much of an impact that can have. And your defense has legitimately been very good recently. It's getting turnovers, it's hitting hard, it has tackles for loss, negative plays. Like, this is the hardest test they've faced all season, but for me, I don't think that Texas may win. I think 13 and a half is entirely disrespectful here. I'm thinking this is going to be quite close. As a Sun Devils fan, your honest opinion, what do you see happening?
Texas will win. That's fine. This is another one where, yeah, obviously it's been the scatter show all year. It can't be that. It can't just be Cam Scatterbo, like I say. And yeah, you're right. Like say, Mateo, Xavier, Guillory, and that guys, like say in the Big 12 championship, they were able to take the pressure of not having John Tyson. But different kettle of fish in at the Texas secondary. Like I say, those guys, if they put a blanket over those guys and they can't get any separation. Sam Levitt, much better athlete than Quinn Ewers, though. Like I say, he's a phenomenal runner. He is going to have to extend a lot of plays and throw on the run with his legs. This is going to be, like I said, one of those kind of games. They're going to land time. But like I say, we've got Abney. Like I say, it's a bit of a ball hawk. We will have Shamari Simmons for the second half because I'm pretty sure his ejection's not been overturned. So they're going to get the star safety back to the second half. We've got just as many guys that can take the ball away as they have.
And
So
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say. So they're
I
a
think we
hunch.
can get. I think we can get some interceptions on yours. I think we can get some turnovers, and our linebacker player, like I say, McCullough, like I say, forced fumbles, been an absolute stud in the centre. Like I say, punching the ball out and that, because we know Wisner and Blue are going to get a huge workload. It's
Yeah,
going to come down to the Arizona State run defense
that's it.
ultimately.
You look at the key matchups here. 70th in rushing in the nation, obviously after this last one, but you can stop the run. You've got an in. What are they very good at? Turnovers gained. What are your team good at doing? Not committing turnovers. What are
Yeah,
they bad at doing?
Sam
Turnovers lost.
Sam does not give the ball away at all, and Scatterbar. Is that like what? Is that like one fumble, like on like 225 carries or something stupid? They just
Yep.
don't give it away.
And they've lost 22 turnovers. They're 113th in turnover loss this year. So you take the ball away, you defend the run well, you protect the ball yourself, you give yourself a fighting chance. I do think Texas will win, but I think the 13 and a half.
One big issue though is don't have a kicker they trust. So what happens if they get into fourth and long?
Hmm,
Kenny Dillingham in recent weeks has been forced to go for it on fourth downs a lot because he didn't have a kicker he can trust. Is he going to put faith in the kicker next week? I feel like you have to. You can't be turning the ball over on downs. You're going to have to try and get the 3 points. So special teams will be very big next week.
yeah, absolutely. They will. Right, we've got to get this wrapped up soon. So we'll get through the others. Oregon versus Ohio State at Eugene. Surprising betting line odds this week. Oregon were favored when this was first out. Now Ohio State on the road are favored by 2.5. People saw last week and now fancying after what they saw in the first game between the two, which stupid quarterback decision lost it. People believe Ohio State are gonna avenge that loss earlier in the year, and they're the ones going there. Do you agree?
Yes, I think they get revenge, and I think Ohio State wins this matchup. I think Jeremiah Smith, I think he can hold his own now on the outside. Like I said, the rushing game for Ohio State has been improving. And Dylan Gabriel, don't get me wrong, great quarterback, makes no mistakes, and the offensive line's good. But he's coming up, like I say, against a D line that is on fire now. It's going to be a serious test. Like I say, for John James as well. Like I say, how many holes, how much room can that Oregon O-line give Jordan James to take pressure off Dylan Gabriel? So what's going to come down to again, it's going to be the Ducks O-line, Buckeyes D-line, which one wins on the day?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. I've got to pick someone for the pick watch here. I don't know. Because I used to have the same doubts about Oregon as I do Ohio State. I've seen Oregon just be dominant all year. They're at Eugene, they're at home. I just see something in Oregon that makes me think the Ducks are going to beat the Bucks. So I'm going to go an Oregon win here. I believe in them at last, but whoever loses, I'll win. And then the last one, the one I'm most intrigued by, Notre Dame at Georgia. Georgia, no Carson Beck. Don't know who's going to be replacing him as of yet because we're still
Gonna
6 days
I
out. Oh,
think
is
it's
he?
going back up.
Yeah, is he going in? But obviously, we know Georgia, one of the best defenses in the nation, period. Ton of talent on there. Their offense is good. They've got running backs. They've got guys in there to help. The tight end room is deep. We know how good this team can be. Notre Dame look legit for the first time in years, though. They have been thoroughly demolishing teams on both lines of scrimmage, which just feels because this is going to be the big factor in this one. Who can dominate the trenches? And who can win this game. It's in Athens as well. History would say that Notre Dame will probably be outsiders for this, but the Beck injury for me just levels the entire playing field. And in terms of the betting line, if I remember rightly, this thing is quite close. Let me just double check where we're at with it. Um, it is -2 for Georgia. Very, very close. Oh, in fact, it's dropped to -1. So it's basically a pick 'em with the home advantage. But Notre Dame need this win, right? They need a statement win. I know they've had a few this year, but they need something to show that they are back among the elites of the elite of the game again. And this is it. A Georgia team who's missing its quarterback through injury. Do you reckon they're capable of doing it?
I'm just thinking Notre Dame upset. I say Gunnar Stockton, we saw him, didn't we, in the second half of the SEC Championship game. And what does he want to do? The first chance to get, he wants to escape and run. He didn't want any of that Alabama D line. Yeah. And this is going to be, I think, the same again. I think he is going to be looking for his escape route. And like I say, what he can do damage with his legs. But I think if the Notre Dame D line can keep him in the pocket, Xavier Watts or something like that in DBs, this is the kind of game where you could feast on him in turnovers. I think this is a terrible place for the Bulldogs to be in. Yeah, I'm really confident in Notre Dame upset. I think Love will be able to pick apart that defense and soften it up a little bit.
Just how big is that Riley Mills injury going to be? Like those, him and Cross are the glue that holds that whole thing together, and the reason that defense does so well. Is missing one of them gonna give those guys in the because that Georgia interior offensive line is really good. I'm assuming Tate Ratledge is now fit. I think he's been injured. I think he's
Yeah, I
playing.
think he's back to full health now playing
I
recently.
think he's I think he's
Can Georgia
back.
run the ball?
That's
Because
the
time
question.
and time again, all year, they have failed to run the ball.
I just feel like Notre Dame have to prove themselves to me before I believe in them. That's where I'm kind of at. Like Ohio State did last week. They had to prove themselves in a big game. They've done that now. You can take them as legitimate contenders. Notre Dame, it's the same. I'm with you though. I do think they just look good. I can't disbelieve what my eyes tell me. They're a very good team, and they're winning the line of scrimmage on both sides, and that will beat teams. And without Beck, I don't know if they've got it. So I'll go the Notre Dame upset as well, but I don't know if it is an upset. Maybe, but all I know is I'm hoping all four of these are going to be great.
Oh
That's all
no,
we
it's a
want.
fighting Irish win that all the SEC defenders will say it's because Carson Beck is out. And they
Yeah.
got they're already lining the excuses up. I can see it now.
Absolutely. And then Florida State fans will pile in going, well, we didn't even get in the playoffs with ours because they cannot let it go. So yeah, we will see what happens. Anywho, that is everything we have time for today because we've got to get ready for the Main Lions podcast, and Matt will be he'll be ready to shoot me if I don't finish this soon. So thank you to everyone who has joined this evening. Appreciate you all as always. Mile Marker, Lisa, Brent, everyone. We appreciate you all. Mile Marker, as we say, we will get on your request for interior O lineman for next week. Maybe potential Glasgow replacements down the line. We will do our homework for you. If anyone else has any requests, please just let us know, and we will get on them for you. I will take a look at Carson Vinton as well for you, Grandizer. Our next shows, obviously, we're coming right back up with the Main Lines podcast. Me and Ryan will be back next week. Figure we might do the Thursday because the playoffs are Tuesday and Wednesday. So I don't want to do the show before the playoffs or while they're on, actually. So we'll probably come back to you on Thursday or Friday or something a bit later so we can let the playoffs happen first. And then we'll be back with you then. And then don't forget, ROTL Lines UK. You can find us all over the internet. Just type our name in, find us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that. It really helps us. Just remains me to thank Ryan. Appreciate you very much. And to Hank, who joined us this evening. And we shall see you all again very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Christmas holidays. Go One Pride.
Recording stopped.